shortly after the Malaysian 15 minutes Edinburgh. Like you invite me, right?
Yeah, I invite you afterwards, after she gives the speech.
Yeah, I'll just say like, okay, hi everyone, I'm born from UKEC, blah blah blah. And then I'll say like.
Should we start?
Settle down.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we will commence with the next session very shortly. So please come down and please make way to your seats as well, if the ones who are not sitting yet.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the third session of the conference today, where we will engage in a discussion on women in the corporate world in Malaysia. Our speaker for this session is Datuk Sharifah Sofiani. Datuk Sharifah received the Malaysian government scholarship to study in the United States and graduated from University of Missouri, Columbia, with a degree in accountancy. She is also an alumna of prestigious London Business School. She is currently a board member of Petronas. Previously, she was appointed as the Managing Director, Head of Client Coverage, Global Banking at Maybank Investment Bank Berhad, after having assumed various senior positions within the group, such as Deputy Managing Director, Equities, and Managing Director, Head of Institutional Equities. Datuk Sharifah is actively involved with various NGOs. She was a founding member of the Tengku Azizah Fertility Foundation and is currently the Honorary Treasurer. She is also the committee member of Friends of Asia Pacific World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, and a member of the Olave Baden-Powell Society. She also sits in the Committee of Review of Bachelor of Finance program at University of Malaya, Faculty of Business and Accountancy. Without further ado, join us in welcoming our speaker, Datuk Sharifah Sofiani. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you, UKEC, for having me here. And I would actually like to thank UKEC for championing this agenda in women. I think it's commendable. It is a subject, an initiative that the Malaysian government, together with certain bodies, is trying to champion women in business, in decision-making position, as well as what you call board. Yeah, the clicker. Okay. So I'd rather make this a very informal sort of discussion, and what I'm going to do is I just have a few slides which which my charges have prepared, and then in any time which you need to stop me to ask for certain clarification on the slides, please do. Yeah. Okay, I can see Petronas there. I didn't realize that. And Maybank, right? Okay, who is this? Anybody can tell me who this is? Anybody? Sorry? Yes, President Nixon. President of United States of America from 1969 to 1974. When asked at the Supreme Court why he does not have women in government, this was what he said. I don't think women should be in any government whatsoever, mainly because they are erratic and emotional. And can you imagine that kind of statement that comes from a president of United States of America, how it affects the go forward of corporate in America, but this is in 1969 to 1974. Yeah, so that was the platform then. That was the platform then, which, and years onward, having championed and all that, currently 2 years back, last year, only 19% of corporate America has women in senior positions. Yeah? In Japan, only 3% has senior position. Why? This is recent. I can understand what he says in 1969 to 1974, where women are actually homemakers, supporting their husbands and making sure that, the child's well brought up, well and good. But moving on so many years after that, we still have this statistic. You know that there's more Johns running corporate America than there are women? That's a reality. That's a reality. Yeah? Okay, now today, I want to set the platform for today's talk. This is being live fed to London. Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. First, I must commend the change that you guys are making. You guys, UKEC, you are an agent of change, making use of, guys, live feed to London and Malaysian Hall and everything. It is commendable coming from you guys. And I wish some of the corporates change as fast as UKEC. Well done, UKEC. Yeah? Okay, coming back to why women is important in corporate world. 3 reasons, 3 general reasons. Economy, yeah, business, and talent pool. We need women for that, for that purpose. Women are very critical for that purpose. You have more women entering this tertiary education than men. But you look at the statistic later, you'll be shocked that women don't get there, not as fast as we want to. So why are women important? So in this national or global age economy, yeah, women will fulfill the gap of the age, because we have women. They are young, they are capable, they have quality. We have to believe in those, and we have those women, right? So it's very important, yeah, and a woman in terms of talent pool, yeah, women in talent pool, equal, we're equal men. And I'm so glad today, in this hall, I'm seeing a lot of men. I think the women should give a round of applause for the guys who are here. You know why? Because women agenda is just not for women alone. It's for you guys to have a diverse discourse in boardrooms, in senior management. So it's not an agenda driven by just women. Yeah. So why is it important? If you look at this statistic, when women are developed fully and contribute to the workforce, yeah. If US, okay, the code word here is rates. The code word here is rates. If women in US work at the same rate as men, and women do not work at the same rate, for every dollar that a man makes, a woman makes 77 cents. It's not fair, right? It's really not fair, but we'll come to that. Okay, if they work at the same rate, US GDP could grow for as much as 9%, France by more than 11%, Italy see a climb of 23%. If women work at the same rate as men, right? And in the OECD, which is the Organization of Economic Cooperation Development, I think it consists of now 36 countries in the OECD. If women's participation in the workplace were to converge with men's rate, by 2030, we could see an overall increase of 12% of the GDP. Why not? Why not? In terms of business, a lot of studies has shown that having women in having women in leadership actually increase the financial indicators and performance of the company. Oops. Yeah? Okay, it is a business value that women bring. There's no doubt about that. Many studies by McKinsey, by Citigroup, by SocGen has shown that women provides value. And when there's more women in decision making, the ROI increases, ROE increases, the less gearing. So women are not in, women being in workforce will complement the guys, yeah? Okay, this is human capital value, come on. We know, look at how many women are there in universities. Look at how many guys there are in universities. Generally in Malaysia, women enter the tertiary education on a higher rate than guys. And therefore, in aging economy, in terms of contribution to the workforce, we need women and women in leadership for human capital development, for optimizing and optimizing workforce. We need them. And today's discussion is women in decision-making position, which is women in the C-suites. Yeah, C-suites, you know what women in C-suites is, right? Women who are CEOs and women who are C-suites, CEO -1, which is a CIO, Chief Investment Officers and all that, and women in board. In the Fortune 500, only 5% are women. 5%. And only out of that 5% women in that category that I define, only 2% are women in board. 2%. So 5% in Fortune 500, and only 2% are 2% are CEOs of those companies. The rest are CEO -1. Yeah, so it's a very, very small, very small percentage. So you know that we need to do things to retain women in workforce, not just retaining them up to analyst or manager level. We need to retain them to senior executive level and hopefully to the board level. Yeah? Okay, participative and democratic way of women dealing things. Because of our nature, women is thought to be communal in qualities. Men are thought to be agentic in qualities. Anybody knows what communal and agentic is? Communal is more, women are more compassionate, women are softer, women are listeners and other traits of typical women, whereas men are thought to be authoritative, decision-making individual and very firm in their driving of the business. And when a woman crosses the communal traits into the agentic traits, people do not take it well because you're seen as being pushy. Yeah, you're seen as being bossy. This is, that is the stereotyping that we have in our society. But when men from agentic goes to communal, wow, he's seen as compassionate, he's seen as a people's person. Yeah, so having these two different traits working together provides the balance. Yeah, provides the balance. So I've gone through the economic state, I've gone through the business state, and obviously human capital is not. I'm sure you all. I'm sure we all know. And we need women. We need capable, quality women to be groomed, to be what do you call it? Identified early, so that you go up the chain faster, or if not faster than guys. Yeah? It's not easy. It's not easy breaking this threads that people are used to. It's not easy. But what I want to tell you guys, you people in this hall today, and also in London, wherever place you are in London, is that this stereotyping does exist. The glass ceiling does exist. Up to a certain level, women somehow plateau. And with all these things that's been done, people are saying that, oh, there's no more glass ceiling. There is. There still is. We've got a long way more to go. But things are getting easier in terms of identifying the correct traits and grooming the correct people who are ambitious enough to go up in the workplace. Yeah. Where are we now? It's interesting. I love this statistic. I looked at them again and thought, we've got a long way more to go. I'm just going to take some example. Two examples of nations, and then we will zero it to Malaysia, because I'm sure that is where the interest is, right? Yeah. Where are we now? In terms of right mindset for Malaysia, it's been said. There's so much talk about, increasing women in decision-making positions to 30%. Okay, you may ask me why is it 30% and why is it not 25%? Because 30% studies have shown that you will reach the critical mass to make a difference in terms of your voice being heard. So, yes, in 2018, our Prime Minister actually said this, and in the 10th Malaysia Plan has actually said that we need to increase women in decision-making position by 2016. We're not there. We're far from achieving our 10th Malaysia Plan, and I will tell you why. Fewer women at higher management position. Okay, this is what I want to share with you guys. In tertiary level, we have 57% that comes into universities and higher education, and vis-a-vis guys, 43%. When entry level, in the junior level, analyst level, you have 52% women, and we have 48% men. Okay, you look at this. When you come to senior level management, the guys, tiada lah, kan? I mean, because okay, you have 60% guys, men in workforce, senior and mid management, and 40%. Why? It is a real case whereby that is the age whereby home front takes, a lot of people have to make the decision whether the husbands or the wife, and you have a lot of attrition. Women from the age of 28 to 34, that's the highest attrition rate from the working force. Yeah, because when you have to choose, family life and everything, the chances are that women take the back seat. The women take the career, back seat in career against the men. So, ladies, if you are ambitious, if you want to progress in your career and you really, really believe it, talk to your boyfriend, get that done and sealed. Tell him, tell him, I'm equally ambitious with you, as you. I don't want to take a back seat. Family life has got to be shared, 50-50. You know why? Because I'm driving the Malaysian agenda. I am driving the Malaysian agenda. And I believe me, you have to set it before you get married. Because once you get married, things change, right? So, looking at the attrition in the senior management position is great. Yeah? I mean, I see this. I was in Shell, I was in Maybank. You know, you see that as you progress, I mean, seniority progress, you see, why the woman disappearing? You know, but it is real. And women in top management is CEO, CEO -1. You have only 27. 27% against 57%. Is real. This is a current statistic. Women in board, 13%. And this is after our drive. This statistic is Malaysian statistic. This is after our drive with PM, with setting up so many things. It's 13%. So, diversity in workplace. Yes, we have diversity. We don't have a balance because for reasons that maybe is understandable, we lose women in mid-level. Women don't make it to mid and top level. They may still be in workforce, but they don't make it to this level. Now, this discussion today is to make women into that level, right? I mean, you guys study as hard as guys, right, ladies? Yes. Right? If not, and your grades is maybe better, right? If not, I'm sure your grades are better, right? Yeah, we need people like you guys. We need people who can carry the diversity agenda and can meet the 10th Malaysia Plan. We need that. Yeah, we need that. So have that conversations with your boyfriends. Yeah. Okay. So if you look at this, you understand that the statistic is so. Though women started, you know, I mean, being educated and all that, they somehow do not make it to that level. And our discussion is this level, board and top management. These are the 30% that we want women to be at. Yeah. Okay, if you look at 2014 and 2015, there is an increase. There is an increase, but not significant enough. At board level, we are constantly looking for capable and qualified women who wants to be at board level. So the drive is there. It's easier for women. I started my career before you guys were born. I started my career in 1984, which woman supports the guy. We will be the one preparing all the charts. It will be the guys presenting. You know, it will be, you don't have women, I don't remember. I mean, we have one or two, of course. But the drive for women to be progressed at the speed level because of the recognition that they actually can go to the CEO's level or board level is not there, and it is real. Glass ceiling is real. You all heard the concept of glass ceiling, right? Yeah, it is real for women. It is real. That was in 1984, but there wasn't all this initiative that can drive us. There's no championing of this kind of initiative. So percentage of women decision making in the public sector. So this is how it looks now. Some of the, this is 2015 and this is mid 2015, and if you see the numbers varying a bit, it's because we report some Talent Corp report the number for March 2015, and certain others that gave us the statistic report it as end of 2015. So, but not much change. Yeah? Okay. You look at this, Norway, United Kingdom. I want you to focus. And Malaysia, 3. Yeah? Norway, women in board has increased to 35.5%. Do you know why? Can anybody tell me why? Can you guess why in Norway women are actually in that, they have achieved women in board position of 35.5? I think their target is 40. Anybody knows why? Yes, very good. Very good, thank you. Because Norway has set a quota that women should be, if you don't have women a certain percentage, they may delist you, delist the company. So they have all this, so it's like a forced quota. You ask me, I don't like it. I don't like that there's quota. I like to be where we are when we're chosen to be, right? Setting quotas is not, I mean, there's a 30% 30% club that I will talk about. Yeah, our 30% club and the 30% club that has been established is against quota system. It's based on quality. It's based on the fact, I mean, we want you to be in the boardroom because you're qualified. Okay? United Kingdom is a good example, whereby the drive to women in board is not based on quota, but based on collaboration. That's what we want. Okay? Based on collaboration, and the drive is because they know that the woman is capable on certain aspect. So the corporates drive the woman quota in UK, yeah, against Norway, which sets a quota. So it's more of a realization by corporate, and they have this Lord Martin Davis study, and the government drives it, but they don't force it. But they find that, UK is the first country that has Helen Morrissey actually established the women 30% women agenda in UK, drove it with certain individual that is respected, and drive this agenda without any quota. So you will see the statistic after, I hope they have it, that the progress from 2011 is like shooting up. Yeah? Malaysia, we've done. Prime Minister's done, but it's not there yet. Okay, these are the legislated gender targets, and one is the voluntary gender target. I like to be, I think all of you would not want to be anywhere just because you're a woman, right? It should be based on your quality and capability, right? So we don't want gender target. We have established this, the fact that we don't want any quota. We want target but not quota. Yeah? Okay, in Malaysia, I think next step may not be Malaysia. Change is a process, not an event. It takes time. It takes time. But we have to push it hard enough. We have to push it hard enough. We have to create the supply, the demand for these two agendas that we are trying to create, which is the woman in decision making and woman in board. Many things have happened, but I'll show you US, and in US it's low. US as bad as us. the progression is very slow. They are at 19%. 2015, this is 2015, 2015, they are still at 19. Yeah. In UK, I've explained to you earlier, this was the point, 2014 to 2010, whereby you have the 30% target that is being imposed. Yeah. Woman is seen as integral part of the business. They believe in it. There's no quota. So in terms of conversations and board selection process, leadership process, there's governance to it, you know, and they actually have identified women to actually progress higher. So UK is doing the right thing. Malaysia, if there's no intervention at all, will reach our 30% quota in 2099. Sedihlah saya dah tak ada kan. You all ada juga? Tak ada kan? Tak ada kat kot? Kan? 2099, if there's no intervention. And this is women in the public listed company. Out of, there's only 675 out of almost 7,000 positions. Yeah? That's women in board. Actually kan, for people like me, I think I can pick up lah this 375, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's kawan-kawan lah, you know. Tak banyak ah, tak banyak. Kan, tak banyak. You know, I mean, it's amazing when, look, women in universities are more than men, and yes, we have women in workforce, there is a lot, but most of the women do not progress past mid and senior level, and a lot of them are okay with it. How do we make the leap? Okay, this chart is a whole lot. I can talk about this for 20 minutes. First, we set the goal, locate the supply, build the supply, implement, create, and sustain the focus. Strategic purpose, strategic goal, so all this has been thought of. You have champions in the women agenda by the government itself, by, I mean, Pemandu is helping, a lot of people helping. So when PM actually, when PM put women agenda as 30% agenda in decision making, the stewardship of that was rest with the women ministry. Yeah, so women ministry actually then delegated that responsibility to NAEW, which is NAM Institute of Empowerment of Women. So from ministry to women, and they've done so many things. They have done courses for women, try to encourage women from home into, I mean, qualified women from being homemakers to actually come out to go through this course to qualify them for boardship, because we're in constant need of women who actually qualify. Yeah, so set up the goal. Yes, there's a target. The announcement, 30% representation by 2016, which is not going to be achieved because I think at most it will be 12%. Why 30% target? Because it's proven by a lot of studies that business generated value is derived when there is at least 30% of women on board. Also, decision making, like I explained earlier, is the critical mass the voice will be heard when you talk about 30%. Yeah? And locate the supply. Like I say, Pemandu got involved, and then there is Minda that got involved to train. Yeah, the only problem with locating that supply is the fact that you have numbers, but you don't have quality. We have numbers, but we don't have quality, because when I meet a woman, I say, hey, come, go for training lah, you know. But in the end, they have numbers, and I think less than 2% got placed in the board because they didn't pass, pass the criteria, or when we talk to them, we think that they're not there yet, need more training, yeah. So initially, like I said, it was Ministry of Women, and then, a lot of people, companies, and lead woman is supposed to locate the supply and help locate supply and all that. We're still working at this. Companies to create demand, for the need of women to actually, the selection process should be in place to really highlight that the need for women, yeah, quality and qualified. Huh? Okay, build supply chain. There's so many. You have 900 trained today. I don't like these figures, because you can train. Maida can train, but you need quality, and you need. We don't. You guys agree that we don't want women in decision-making position or board position because they are women, right? We want to be good. We want to be at par with the guys. We want to make a difference. We want our communal and their agentic qualities to match for good discussions at board or good discussions at EXCOs, right? To actually to solidify the existence of the diversity between in boardrooms, yeah. So, okay. Also, in terms of formalized policies, yes, it's been done. You have the Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance, both SC, Bursa, whereby they wanted the nomination committee to actually make sure that they actually, when there's a board renewal and all that, they actually consider women. And Malaysian Code on Institutional Investor 2014 is very powerful, because apa? Because when a GLC invests in public listed companies, they need to check that this the public listed company ada tak. Okay, there is that code, yeah, but whether it's done or not, we're not really sure, because like you said, you look at tadi punya percentage out of that 7,000-8,000 board members, board positions in public listed company, only 675 are women. So, yeah, create demand. Of course, lead women, engages in corporates, engages in companies to champion the women so that they get selected. But women selection, though it's been championed, you need to surface the right quality of women. You need to surface the right capability of women. So some of the companies are saying that it's not there. It's not there. But they say that the glass ceiling has broken. But if you look at organizations, there are quality women. There are women that is able to be progressed, but for reasons, for glass ceiling reasons, yeah, majorly the drive or whatever, it remains there. So you have the champion to women. There is the there is this woman 30% championed by three people actually. Three people actually was the founder of this woman to boardship, which the Prime Minister has. Is Tan Sri Megat Zaruddin, which is the chairman of Maybank, where I was. And then you have Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia, and then you have Tan Sri Zarina. Tan Sri Zarina sits with me at the board of Petronas. So, time's up. Okay, I want to go to my journey. Time's up. Didn't say 10 minutes. Okay, my journey. Okay, let me touch. Time's up. Okay, she gives me 1 minute. Okay, my journey. I started in Shell. I was recruited in Shell, and then went to Kenanga. Reasons for that, I went from an oil and gas to Shell, and then I'm best known, I think, for my stint in Maybank. And October last year, I was called to the board of Petronas. It was quite humbling for me because Petronas is, as you know, it's the only Fortune 500 in Malaysia, and to be called in a Petronas board is quite a humbling experience. But they actually request or to be board of Petronas. I have to leave my full-time job, which is Maybank. With sadness, I leave Maybank. I'm passionate in terms of the change that was brought out in Maybank, and but I don't leave Maybank because I want to leave. I left Maybank because I had to leave, because maybe I can put it as a greater calling to sit in the board of Petronas. Yeah. So you can ask me questions about my journey. I didn't have much time because I didn't realize that time's up. Yep.
Thank you, Dato', for the eye-opening speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed with the Q&A session. I'd like to invite Dato' Sharifah Sufiani to take a seat on the stage. Moderating the session will be Yi Won Huen, an executive from UKEC Chairman and Deputy Chairman's Office.
Hello. Hello, guys. Can you hear me? Okay, just a second. Let me check with the group to see we are good to go.
No? That's the one with the London. Oh, that's London? That's not London? Okay.
Can you guys hear us, London?
Hello, London.
Hi, London. Hi, London. Can you hear us? London, please respond.
Test.
Can you hear us, London?
Hello, London? London? Hello?
Maybe you can take questions from here first. Oh. Okay.
Hi.
No?
They just left.
Sorry, guys, we have some technical errors. Hi, London.
Hi.
London is not responding.
London is also trying hard, I'm sure. Daniel, Izzat, are you there? Oh, I think I can hear.
We try again.
Hello?
Hi. Okay, are we good to start?
Yeah, we're ready to start.
Okay, cool. So we'll first start with Edinburgh. Do we have any questions for Dato'?
Hi, hello. I just wanted to ask you, like, in Malaysia, the word feminism is deemed as something that you shouldn't even speak about. What are your thoughts on that? Thank you.
There shouldn't be, hello, there shouldn't be feminism or, we should be championing on equality, yeah, and is it not a word that you should use in terms of trying to portray? I would drop the...
It's like if we say feminism is something that is so scary, or it's like you shouldn't even mention about it, yeah.
If you ask me, it's not a word that I would like to use. It's not a word that major woman champion would like to use, but it's a non-issue in that respect. Yeah, so sometimes you get dropped of the word, but I don't think feminism is taken in as in a negative context as so much. But it's not used professionally in that respect. Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions from Edinburgh?
Have you read a book called Lean In?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I guess you know what I mean when I say that another problem is an issue of mentoring, because a lot of young women don't actually have good mentors, really.
In fact,
so
I was just thinking as I was sitting down, something that I didn't mention is that we have this mentoring, woman mentor woman, as an initiative by Talent Corp and Women Champions. So it's something that's done. It's something that's done. I, for example, I mentor 5 women, 5 women, 2 in the C-suites, and which is my mentee that I just received as I go into Petronas board, and 3 women that I mentor from the time that I was in Maybank. So yes, there are women mentor women, yeah, and there are different stages of mentoring. For example, in Maybank, yeah, you have a woman championing, a woman champion platform that is woman mentoring women, yeah? Mentoring women. And I must add, I think in LinkedIn, it may be that book or not, they say mentoring is, there's too many mentoring but not enough championing women.
yeah, something similar to
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But I think it's not just, I guess if we're going to push this agenda forward, it's not just women mentoring women, it's also the men who are already in the C-suite roles.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, how you set yourself is very important. Out of this mentoring program or whatever, you have to build your social social network. That's why I can't emphasize more about networking. Your social capital has got to be built, and there's no mentoring program. I mean, you have to drive that. You have to know where you want to be. You have to have mentor inside. You have to have a kingpin inside, and you have to have mentor outside. As you go above senior management and all that, outside needs to know you.
Sorry, I guess my actual question is, so what's your advice for young women like myself in terms of trying to get mentors or trying to approach people to mentors?
Yes.
Thank you.
Some organizations are already having that. When you recognize talent, they have this mentoring system. But for you yourself, for women yourself, you want to know more and you want a mentor, approach. Because there's a lot of women out there in senior management who wouldn't mind mentoring people, and there's that system already established. Yeah.
Right, thank you very much. Can we have the lady just now who raised her hand?
Oops.
Hi, So you mentioned that the higher you climb on a corporate ladder, women becomes more of a minority. So I was curious, like you said, one of the challenges is being seen as bossy. So in addition to that, what would you say is your number one challenge as a minority at the top? And how have you or other women in similar positions kind of overcame that challenge?
Stereotyping is one thing that we have. It is about adjustment to as you reach. The challenges is when you are about to go up, not when you have reached the top and all that. I mean, challenges ada lah, tapi less lah kan. But
so you would say like the process of going up is
Yeah.
more difficult than actually
once
when
you
you're
reach
there.
the top, I hate how that comes out, but yes, the challenges I must say with women is generally not so much by the men. Yeah? Women do not champion women, and that's something we have to change. Women do not champion women and appear as bossy, making changes. Hey, that's the forte of women actually. We make changes and we make it known. You know? Yeah.
Interesting. Can we have the last question from Edinburgh? Yeah, the lady there.
Hi, I know it's a Q&A session, but I think it's more in line with a commentary instead. Is that okay? You said something about how women were comfortable with being where they are in your speech just now. And I do think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that at the foundation level and not like after tertiary level itself, but from primary school to secondary school to universities itself, there has been like putting women down. I mean, if I go back to my foundation level at a public university, we still had discussions whether women were qualified to be leaders or not in the classroom. You know, and in high school, I went to an all-girls school, and we didn't have the option to choose. Like, there's this subject called Kemahiran Hidup, and one of the Kemahiran Hidup living skills.
Okay.
Right. So there are several options, and for us in the girls' school, we had to choose economy rumah tangga, right?
It's stereotyping lah. It's stereotyping,
Exactly.
right?
So in
Yeah.
that sense, it's not that we don't. I guess like girls are okay with it because people tell us we're supposed to be okay with it, and we lose our confidence to even go further up the corporate level because of that.
I understand. I mean, if challenges are there now, challenges were there in the 60s with President Nixon saying something like
They
that.
put it exactly.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that initiatives, I think, can't just start after we go out of the university, but it actually has to start from when we're in primary school or even in kindergarten, because that's when we're most impressionable.
That's when parental guidance is key in how you are being shaped. Yeah. So it's very important. So as we progress, women in leadership, naturally, we will then bring up our children not to be that stereotyped way of. I mean, women are the supporters of the husbands and all that. So generally, it will cascade. It will. As more women gets into leadership and everything, so we hope that it will. Yeah, you're right. You're right there.
So we'll now move on to the London session. London people, can we have some questions from you guys? Do you guys have any questions? Hi, London.
Hi, nice to meet you. Can you stand up?
Yeah.
Can you stand up into the webcam and speak louder into the mic? Put it very close to your mouth. Hi, nice to meet you.
Can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I know you say
Can you hear? No, I can't hear it.
Under the NDP enforces affirmative action for women so there's quotas in businesses and trade. So why shouldn't there be affirmative action for women as well?
Actually, we have difficulty in hearing your questions. Can't. It's breaking, huh? Breaking.
Can you please repeat your question?
Can you shout into your mic?
Yes, very, very loud.
All right.
So I know that you say that you don't agree that there should be forced quotas for women in business. But I know that the NDP has affirmative action for Bumi Putras and there's quotas in business.
Can you? I can't hear. I can't hear. I can't hear.
Junrei, we'll give you a call.
Wait. Is it possible for you to come up? Yeah, it's come up. Okay, so she's gonna speak directly into the mic, so can you give us a second?
I can hear you, but I can't hear her.
Oh, they can hear you, but they can't hear her.
Huh? Can you speak into the mic?
They can hear.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, really nice to meet you. So my question was that I know you don't agree with forced quotas for women in business, but I know that NDP has affirmative action for Bumi Putras, and so does quotas in trade and business. So why shouldn't there be ones for women in business as well, since there's already quotas anyways?
Okay. Why lead woman is not championing quota? Because we want to preserve quality and capability rather than having women just for the sake of meeting numbers. The leadership thought that a collaboration will be better than a quota, and board governance and nomination committee to have a stream of selection to make sure that there is. Like I said earlier, would you want a woman to be in the leadership just because she's a woman? You wouldn't want that. You want, as a woman, I would like to be there because I'm capable, because my quality and capability is being appreciated, and that I deserve to be there rather than a quota. We see in Norway, for example, generally the other gender is saying that, okay, you have 40% women, but this woman has got no voice at all. They're just there to meet the numbers. So lead woman is really against quota, which I fully agree as well.
Sorry, so are you saying that you don't agree with the affirmative action for Bumi Putras then as well?
That's a separate agenda. That would be a separate agenda. It would not be under the preview of our discussions on women leadership today.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, we can have one more questions from London.
Anyone? Yeah.
Okay. Where do I look?
Yeah.
Hi. So since you're on the board of Petronas, what I wanted to say was that Petronas has an extremely large gender gap in the workplace with just 28% women, and this is not just this is in the whole company and not just top level positions. So what I wanted to know was that what do you think Petronas should do to implement? What do you think they should implement to reduce this, especially because it's a Fortune 500 company?
Yeah. Petronas is actually through the HR is having this woman mentor woman as to get like what is being done in Maybank. That percentage that you've given is correct. We're trying to bridge that gap by forwarding quality and potential women in decision making. So it's done through our HR. It's done through our HR. This initiative, in fact, Petronas is in that group of the champions of women, which is driven by HR. So in terms of governance, selection process, and all that, there is that woman trying to look for qualified women in the back of the agenda. Thank you for the question.
Right, we can actually have one more question from London.
Does anyone else have a question?
Have it here. Any question? No questions? Maybe here?
No questions?
No.
Thanks.
No, we have no questions left.
Okay, any here? No questions, so maybe we can have one more from here.
Edinburgh, do we have any questions? One more last question?
Thank you.
That girl there.
There.
Hi. My question is that, you know how you explained just now that there is a stereotype like in the world today. So is it not good to actually have a quota to bring women in that place and then empower them so that they keep on living, like being in that position and like moving up? Because if we just expect women to realize and fight for it, that is going to take ages. So why don't, yeah.
Look at what UK has done. They don't have a quota. They create the realization of what benefits that is derived from having women on board. And they are successful. They are, so it's the drive, the will to drive by corporates, by CEOs of major organizations. Rather than have quota, imposed, like what Britain is using is, okay, we do it through collaboration, but I'm monitoring you. Which is what Malaysia is doing. You have to report your diversity in your annual report and all that. That's done. So it's not a quota, but you have to go out and look for capable women. In the background then, you have all this training done by MIDA, all these lead women trying to get the supply of quality and qualified people. So having a quota, just a quota, people may just take the easy route, you know.
Can I just add a bit? So, all right, but I do not know, like for me, when I'm studying here, the way people are sociologically are very different compared to how it is in Malaysia. So yes, women can empower themselves here because it's so much more different than in Malaysia. Like maybe in Malaysia we need like a push, I think.
We have a push. We have the push. We have the push through the founders, through our founders of this women agenda. We have the push through Pemandu, we have the push through Minda, we have the push through the women lead. Yeah, basically is getting the supply and creating a demand, right? They are saying that supply ada, but demand. So it's about constant conversation and communication with the chieftains to actually realize that, you know, I know where you're going at, you're getting at. That's why, ladies, we start the change process. Let's start the change process, not just for ourselves, but for our children, for the country, and the global economy. So this winds of change is here. I mean, there's a lot of realization, there's a lot of push towards women in leadership, and but women have to build their own social network. You have to make sure that you're heard, and you're not like talk to your boyfriends and girlfriends saying that, hey, I am boyfriend, you know, that I want equality. Change starts from you. change start from this point onwards, change start from you. At least we don't have a precedent saying that, why should I? Right? Okay.
Right. Thank you very much, everyone. So I'll
Thank
just
you.
pass back to Bishan. Thank you, Dr. Sharifah.
Oh, there's another question.
Can I add something to the comment? I think before we start doing all this, what we need to change is not improve, is the education of the culture.
Yeah.
We need to change or improve our culture and education. We need to educate both men and women. It's not
We have.
man has to be more powerful or women has to be powerful, and also culture where we need to know that not only man is the breadwinners, all right?
Yeah.
People can hear me, right?
I totally
Hello,
agree.
London.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. It's behavioral and culture, change and mindset.
Yes.
Yes, I totally agree. The culture. So who drives the change is you. Who starts the change is you. It's been said. Let's, So culture, behavioral, and stereotyping. Let's put that aside and try and drive women agenda. Thank you a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato' and Yvonne. I would like to invite Siddharth Ramesh, President of EMSA, to present a token of gratitude to our speaker.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Right, bye.
Dato' Sharifah and Siddharth, we would like to invite you to take a seat at the front row.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, we need. I need to do that.
How you pass it back to the...
Pass what back?
Get another one. Okay, is this? Sit first. Yeah.
His team consists of Malaysian students across American, British, and Canadian universities, and is currently collaborating with the University of Toronto. Moderating the session will be JC Chan, an executive in the UKEC Catalyst office. Without further ado, we would go on with this session. Thank you.
Hi. Okay, so good afternoon. My name is JC Chan and I'm from UKEC Catalyst office. So today we are lucky to have our two young, hot, talented young men here to share their experience with us about entrepreneurship. So firstly, I would like to invite you guys to briefly tell us about overview of your company and what actually inspired you guys to do your startup.
Hello. Okay, thank you very much, JC, and hello to all over here and in London. So my name's Adam, and I work with Projek Amanat. So you can see this first. Whoops. All right. So this is we are inherently a content aggregator, and basically we want to enhance knowledge discovery and sharing. And we're currently in collaboration with the University of Toronto Hatchery program, which is an entrepreneurship initiative under the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Engineering. And we have currently 7 members. To keep it simple, there are 3 groups, and the first group on your left would be people who are handling money, business, finance-related stuff. People in the middle, we're responsible for designing the whole system, basically the theoretical bit. And to the furthest right will be the computer dudes who are hardcore programming the stuff in the system. So what we are doing basically is we're exploring a new way of how students learn. And basically our intuition is we think people are inherently curious creatures. So that's what really drives people to learn. And a typical consumption pattern would be sporadic, you know. On one minute you're reading about the pharaohs of Egypt, the next minute you're reading about geography of Africa. You know, if you believe that aliens built pyramids, you might be reading about space and stuff. So it's all over the place. You know, people are curious, and that's not a necessary direction to how people actually explore. And this poses a problem to a computer who takes into all this information, and the computer sees it as this gibberish mass of things, you know, nodes, you know, people jumping around between topics one another. And what we are trying to do is a way to intuitively solve this gibberish mess that you see around here, and to make it a more intuitive map that you can actually explore whatever things that you're discovering about. And for the final thing is, I was just going to say, how we're doing it is a very simple model, to say it speak. Imagine each node as an electrical charge, where positively charged particles, where they all repel each other. But each connection is a spring, where they all connect each other. And so you get this attractive and repelling forces that interact between these two nodes and all these nodes, in fact. So what we do is simply let this whole system reach its optimal equilibrium state, or in other words, subject to its minimum, that this system expends the minimum amount of energy to come to its conclusion. And so what you get is this beautiful picture here. Oops. So yeah, it doesn't, yeah, it should sort out itself, but it's okay. So what you see now is from here, this mess that you see, it's scattered everywhere. You can't see a picture going on anywhere. So you see an inherent structure where you can actually explore within a reasonable context. You can see, for example, in the center is about pharaohs, and then branching out would be, the pharaoh, Egypt's history and such, and another branch would be, the geography and then general African geography, and then another branch would be science, the contributions of, Egyptians to science and such. So you have these structures that you can inherently explore and understand more clearly about what you want to explore next. So that's what we are trying to do, in short. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Adam. How about Jashan?
Hi guys, I don't have any slides, but I started a hardware startup in 2014 called Hive. So It's a Bluetooth and GPS tracker. You tag it on your keys and stuff. So if you lose your keys or you lose any of your personal belongings, you can track it with your phone. You leave it behind, you walk away a certain distance from it, it will ring. Or if you lose your phone, you just press it, your phone will ring. So that's the basic concept. Back then, I never knew what a startup was. I didn't know how to monetize this or anything. And I was just working on it on my free time.
Yeah, so it's just interest that driven you to start up? How about Adam also? Inspiring, mainly that inspire you guys is?
It's both inspiration as well as a problem. You can see traditional education rarely works perfectly. So it's both mutually, it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. So this is like, two birds and one stone kind of thing, whatever we call it, yeah.
Okay, so usually we have a problem and we think we might want to solve it and we have interest in that kind of issue.
Yes.
So that usually driven us to start up. Very interesting.
I just had my own problem and I just wanted to solve it myself. And it seems like other people had this problem as well.
Yeah, actually that's true.
Kind of
I
worked out in the end.
cannot find my key. Okay, so can you share your experience about how did you, what's the process of your startup? Like, what's the starting steps of it? Any one of you?
Yeah, so I did not know what a startup was or anything, and I was just building my product. So when I was back in Malaysia in 2014, a friend introduced me to a group of people who had got money from the Ministry of Finance to start a venture capital fund. So I met with them, interviewed with them, they did some due diligence, and they told me to stay back for a year and why not work on this product. So they gave me 100,000 ringgit, and 100,000 ringgit is actually not a lot to build this kind of thing. It might seem simple, but actually it takes up a lot of money. Yeah, so I got additional funding from another government body as well to build the mobile app and the web app. But I did not have time to do the marketing and business side of things.
Okay. So how about you, Adam?
There's no official start date, but I would say this project we're working on is a little bit over a year, almost a year and a half. And at the beginning, there were lots of patches, potholes, everything. There were a lot of problems, and nonetheless we tried to enter university-based competitions. We didn't get that far, to be honest, the first try. But that's the thing. If you really do believe in this and you want to work on it, we worked on it, we improved it, and right now we are. Currently, as I said, we're in collaboration with University of Toronto. They would provide financial as well as expertise help, and hopefully LSE in the coming few days, hopefully.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned about competition. So you also joining with your friends,
yes.
Like a group of friends.
Yeah.
So you guys, both of you, start your company with a group of friends, or?
I started it alone, which is a bad idea. Do not start a company alone. Find friends. It's horrible.
We originally started with 4, and we slowly grew to 7 right now. And I echo that. I mean, it's not a necessary thing, but it helps a lot to have a team. It really helps a lot, and as well as that diverse perspectives and viewpoints to contribute to your ideas. As well as just the fact that because we're based in these multiple places, we get to join these multiple competitions. So that's the additional benefit of diverse
I see.
Geographical locations. Yeah.
So, okay, and both of you mentioned about funding. Like you mentioned about your government, you got some of money from government, and you got some through competitions and stuff.
From the university.
Yeah, from the university. So I can see that funding is an important factor and things to consider in startup, is it? And what else? Is it a challenge to you to look for funding? And what other challenges do you think that there is during this startup process?
I think for it depends on. I don't have full overview of how startup the whole world works, but within my particular experience, if you're starting this kind of software sort of thing, money you still need money, for servers and such, or any other things you need to do with it. But generally speaking, you don't need as much money as say a manufacturing kind of thing startup. For my kind of experience, the main problem is really technicalities. It's the technical problems that are really difficult. So that is where you need the actual intellectual manpower,
Pros.
the workhorses to actually create this thing. So it really depends on a case-by-case basis from my experience. Funding can be a problem, but it usually is, but still it depends on certain cases. Some not as much of a problem, some really is a big issue, so depends.
Okay, so for your challenges, it's more like technicalities.
Yes.
How about you, Joshan?
Funding is overrated. Try not to take money try to not take money. But yeah, fundraising is an issue, but it depends on the industry you're in. So if you're in the software industry, you really don't need much money. You should find people to work for you for free, or just pay them a stipend of enough for them to survive or be happy with. Yeah. The best programmers are volunteers, right? Yeah.
Other challenges?
Yeah, finding those technical people.
Just to add in, finding technical people, usually, in most cases, can you please volunteer to code this for me? It's very hard for people to say yes. What in this and our case is usually you give them equal, equity and stake into this project. So
and inspire them to join you on your
yes.
venture.
Very important.
Very important.
Not to say anything, but programmers and coders, they really are, at least within the fields that we're doing, they're really an integral part of the whole process. So you really have to take care of them. Yeah.
But it's also good that everyone learns to pick up coding, even if it's the fundamentals, because it really makes a difference. When you're hiring someone, to know whether they are lying to you or not. Are you really a good programmer? You have to know code to determine that yourself. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So it means that if you don't know anything about coding,
you could just be hiring someone that is just bullshitting you and just taking money from you.
That's actually quite.
In a perfect world, okay lah. But there are realities you have to face, and to ensure that you're not, getting the short end of the stick or something, you have to check. And these kind of things, you have to have some effort on your own part as well.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally, yes. And realistically, yes. So.
Yeah, because I have a friend, I think, he's trying to start up as well, and he doesn't know anything about coding. He has to really hire someone. And I'm surprised that actually the price that they quote it's really few thousand K USD.
Coding is great. I funded my this year with freelance money I made last year, my tuition fees.
Sorry,
I funded my tuition fees from this year from my work I did last year.
So you're doing coding now?
Yeah, I'm a full-time programmer. So programmers, you can be picky, you can have high rates, but you need to be acceptable. You need to finish the project well, you need to communicate well with your client.
So another good job for you guys, huh? Okay, so besides that, do you have any tips or any advice you can give to young entrepreneurship that are interested to start up?
Okay. I usually give generally these are my kind of go-to maxims when it comes to general startup questions. So first is, you have to find what you're passionate about, something, a problem or something that you're willing to put the hours into, because everything, there's an opportunity cost to it. You could be studying, you could be whatever, anything else but doing this. So you have to make sure that you really want to do it. And if you want to do it, that's usually the push that keeps you on continue doing it. That's that. First. Second is once you face a problem, don't give up. Do work through it. And this is when I think, in particular, having a team helps, especially with that diverse viewpoints. Certain things can have, you can have this problem of tunnel vision when you think too rigidly of certain things. You know, our team, we have mathematicians, I am myself an economist. We have ideas to contribute to how to tackle certain problems. And my final maxim would be enjoy the ride, because it's pretty good. You know, we you know, apart, if you would just want to say the intangibles, the experiences is great. You know, but if you want to consider the tangibles as well, we travel a lot. We see things, we learn new things, and these kind of things, they make the whole journey worthwhile. Even if it ends up not succeeding, you know, I think at the end of the day, it's still worthwhile. You know, it's something that, you know, looks good probably in your CV. You know, it looks, you know, it's something worth considering doing it, and enjoying the ride makes it more worthwhile. Yeah.
But the team, right? Won't it be conflict if you have a larger team? Like, if you start a company alone, of course, no one you can argue with.
So,
if you have a team, okay, it's great to have more ideas, but more ideas, won't it lead to like more conflicts?
So the perfect number of co-founders to have is 3. So
take note.
You can't like, there's no draw if you have an even number, and 3 is just enough. So someone like overrides whatever.
Or you have like I don't know if you have this kind of Steve Jobs like kind of person where, like, technically a little bit of dictatorship lah. I mean, not ideal, but you know, because at the end of the day, there needs to be progress, and if it's constantly stuck at, you know, loggerheads at certain ideas that you cannot move forward, it's very hard. But it is true that you have, when different people around, you have different ideas. But I would argue that process itself is very beneficial. That process of killing off the weak ideas and letting, you know, the improving the strong ideas. It's a bit like, you know, evolution in action. Right? So you see how things develop. You know, this what you see now is not like, oh, one day I came up with this thing. It's a process of thinking throughout a number of stages. So the idea of having team members conflicting ideas itself is a good idea if you do use it correctly and well.
Okay, so Jashan, yeah. What tips can you offer us?
My university professor said a few weeks ago, when he was in university, all the cool kids pretended to be in a band. Now everyone pretends to be entrepreneurs. It makes sense, right? So don't start a startup for the sake of starting a startup. Don't do it for social gratification. Like, oh, my friend's starting a startup, so cool. Actually solve a problem and be passionate about it. Because in the end, if you're just starting a startup for the sake of it, you're not getting much out of it. You're not going to make like a lot of money in your exit, because you're probably not going to exit if you don't have passion in it. Or you're not going to learn a lot from it, because you're just doing it for the sake of doing it.
So passion is a key word. I'm passionate in food. I love to eat. Maybe I should open a restaurant.
Yeah. So do you guys know Taman OUG Gardens? There's like the salmon shop guys. Do you know? There's like some guys who ship really good fresh salmon sashimi. They were accounting like majors, senior partners at PwC or KPMG in Malaysia, and they just quit to open a salmon sashimi shop.
Ooh.
And they're really good.
I didn't know that actually.
And there are a lot of like accounting people, consultants that quit and open up bakeries around Malaysia. It's pretty good.
I can really consider that.
We should. I just to add in, these are, I mean, I completely agree with everything. Just to add, as all you hear, they tend to sound like the things that you're doing can be sort of self-serving, and there's nothing wrong with that. But with respect to some of my what I've observed with, for example, LSE's competitions who past winners, they also engage in what I call social enterprises. So it doesn't necessarily have to benefit, I mean, the founders and co-founders, but you know, like one of the winners called Pollinate Energy is about distributing solar panels across India, those kind of things, I mean, there's no direct profit to be made from the founder's side, but there's still a lot of avenues for you to explore those kind of options as well. So it's not strictly, self-serving, but you could also, make it more dynamic in however ways you want.
Yeah,
Mix it up.
speaking on social enterprises, the Malaysian government is heavily funding this now. So social enterprises are companies that provide a solution that provides an impact to environments, to refugee situations, like stuff that benefits society overall. You won't make much money out of it, but you're doing good for society.
I mean, relative, I don't know how much they're making money though. I don't have that. But clearly, there is rewards to it on the personal side as well. So it doesn't have to be, I do social enterprise, I'm going to end up poor and stuff. I don't think that's the case. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we are running short of time now, so we have to proceed to next question.
Sure.
Okay, so do you think is university a suitable time for students to start up, or we have provided that university student we have a lot of commitments? Do you think it's the best time?
I personally believe that if you're really passionate about something, you're going to make time to work on it. It could be like the weekends, it could be nights, it could be like during your lunch break or during your lectures itself. I did that a lot. Find time. You will.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the beauty about starting your own project and whatever. It's you are inherently in control of it, so you get to choose the flexibility of how you want to work about it. So there's there's no some CEO somewhere forcing you to do this by this that. I mean, you're allowed to be flexible of how you want to tackle this problem and such. There are constraints. I understand at being a student, but given those constraints, there are still a lot of room to maneuver around it. And I don't have any specific experiences. Examples, but just to look over the pond and look at America, like every single startup is doing this. I'm sure they're really very busy with their work and stuff, yet they can still somehow manage it. So are Americans inherently better than us? I don't think so. It's just that you have to have that drive, as Yashin said. That you have to be able to. You must be willing to put in the effort and time to work on that. Then I'm sure anything will be possible.
So actually students can do it, but most of us, I believe that we don't pursue a business degree and stuff like that. So do you think it's a waste for us, who is not a business student, to choose to start up, enter into this entrepreneurship world instead of going into corporate or the degree that we actually pursue?
I'll tell a short story. Okay. So I attended a talk last year at University Malaya. There was a panel discussion on entrepreneurship as well. So a person from the audience asked a similar question. He gave his background as he was a scholar from Sabah, and he came from a poor background, and he was expected to be the main breadwinner after he graduates. So my friend was one of the panelists, and he gave a good answer, which I will try to paraphrase. A corporate job is always a more secure and more financially stable option. If you do have a family to provide for, take the corporate job. But if you're really willing to, don't give up on your dreams. If you're really willing to make it work, you'll find time, like during office hours, during weekends, during nights, you'll find time to make it work. And if you save up enough, you'll be like the salmon sashimi guys at OUG. They're making quite a lot of money. Pretty good.
Okay.
I stay in OUG, but I don't know that.
Just to add, I think when it comes to first, if you're, my degree is not really. I think I'm a living example. I'm doing economics, and the project I'm doing is heavily related with computer science. So, first of all, knowledge. There's always knowledge spillovers. Whatever you're doing always has either the way of thinking to approach a problem or actual applications of whatever you're learning can actually be applied in various other problems, number one. Number two is, if there are constraints, this I think would be back to the earlier answer, which team helps. You get to distribute the workload while still getting to it. And if a well-structured team can actually pull it off, I think that's the case. So if you know, with balanced workloads, with diverse viewpoints, I mean, it's pretty doable, I think, given...
It's doable, but,
yeah.
but do you think it's a waste? Like, I'm studying law. After all this while, I end up to be an entrepreneurship. I'm not a lawyer at all.
Like Dato Sharifah said just now, education is just, a degree is just a mindset. It's like a structured way of thinking. An economist would think a different way from like an engineer. He would think of different problems, different ways to approach a problem. That's why consulting companies and banks appreciate people from diverse backgrounds of whatever. People can do history, you can major in history and still work in McKinsey or investment banks. So it doesn't matter.
And like the short answer, I mean, I don't pretend to be a counselor or something, but if you really like law, then do law. You know, if you're doing a degree in law, but you don't find the passion just dies out, then I don't. You know, do you want to? You know, you have to think about the future. You know, present discounted or whatever we call it. You know, so you know, is that the kind of outlook, future outlook that you want? You know, I think Sarah, at least it gives you. You know, if anything, I can revert back. You know, there's always that option. That's the flexibility that I really enjoy with startups.
So there's nothing as such a waste. You learn throughout your journey, and yeah, I think even if you pursue a degree and you end up in entrepreneurship, you can still use back that skills that you gain through university. So thank you very much. I think we all learned a lot of things from both of your experience. Now we are opening up for a Q&A session from Edinburgh. Any one of you have any questions? Okay.
Hello. Hi, my name is Hafiz. Can you share, like both of you, can you share like a story on how you actually pitched to investors or venture capitalists, or like what did you do? What did you do that made them invest 100K in you, for example? So yeah, and in your business as well, Adam.
Oh, trade secrets. I think my experience would be you sell. It's about selling ideas. Of course, showmanships and all these subjective qualities comes into mind. But especially with university-based ones, they look at the fundamentals. They look what is the problem at hand and how am I solving it. So that is how it's really about telling the project as thoroughly as you can. Not boring them, but giving them how you're solving this problem, how why your method works, why others don't. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I think actually adds up to their if at the end of the day they're two really good pitches. I as a judge, I would pick the ones who with strong fundamentals. They know what they're doing. They're not like, I'm going to sell a Ferrari. I mean, no one's going to believe that. So if you can actually show that, okay, this is how this Ferrari is going to work. You actually show you convince them that you have the capacity to do that. Then I think that's how people end up picking you as opposed to others.
But how you pitch the investor? You approach the uni yourself, or?
So there's usually it's like open, this round of funding is open, so I apply, and there'll be like a couple of rounds.
So application.
So the further the rounds, you get to explain in more detail. Okay, this is how it works. What's happening with this? What's the problem? What's the market size? There's a lot of questions that they will ask, and you have to be prepared every single thing. They want, especially with universities, they want to know because they don't take equity. So this basically is a free grant. And that's why they say, I want to know where every single penny you're going to spend on. So I'm really going to vet you through thoroughly. So that's why for me, the idea has to be really solid from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Adam.
There's
Your
sorry.
100K.
There's a framework I like to work with when I'm pitching. So 3 Bs: big, believable, and blood loss. So your idea has to be big, it has to be scalable, like uber scalable, global. It has to be believable. How are you going to reach an uber level of global expansion? And it has to come with blood loss. Like, what happens if I burn the whole 100,000 and the investor gets nothing in return? So yeah.
Okay.
I also worked at Magic, which some of you might know is the Malaysian Global Innovation Center. It's a government subsidiary of the Ministry of Finance. And the CEO there was really good, but she had a framework, Cheryl Yeo. She gave a really good framework of how you should structure your pitches. You should introduce yourself, your team, the problem you're solving, how are you going to solve it, and more stuff, financials and stuff. I have the framework, so if you guys want, I could give it to you guys later on.
Ooh.
I can't remember what the 10 were.
Okay, so...
You just load in.
Okay, so sorry, we have to... Sorry? Sweat mic. Okay. Hello? Okay. I'm so sorry. So I think we have to, because of the time constraint, we have to, it's time for London to ask questions. Okay, we still have time to take one more. So, okay?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Hold on, London, hold on. We still have one more question from Edinburgh.
Wait. Can you hear us?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, the mic.
Yes, I can hear you.
To that lady, yeah.
So usually entrepreneurs have principles and they're known to be integrity. Can you tell us your daily routines? You know, like they read books, or some people write in the morning, you know, or do you care? You know what I mean?
Sleep, eat,
Oh, sorry, the mic is not on.
Hello? Yeah.
Okay, I'm a programmer, so I sleep at 4 a.m., I wake up at 8, I shower, I eat my breakfast, and I plan out how to code my entire day ahead. So that is my daily routine. I find that the most productive hours are between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m.
This is the sacrifice you have to make in order to succeed. Okay, Adam? Also 4 a.m.
I wouldn't want to say my daily. I wouldn't want people to emulate my daily routines. But I think it's a more longer horizon when it comes to, with respect to this project, because the problem is not just it's my academic considerations that I have to consider. There's also the academic considerations of people in Canada, people in the United States, and though they have, you know, April is Canada's exam season. I mean, May is America, June is UK. So you have all these conflicting constraints that you have. So what we do usually is plan a year ahead straight away. I wouldn't say this is ideal, you know, but the typical work scheme would be like during the summer would spike up, like, you know, we would do crazy hours and just working on this. And then as, you know, exam season comes along, we slowly tone down our work. And then after the exam season, we spikes up again, you know. So I wouldn't say this is the way for you to, you know, it could be not. I mean, it's just how you want to do it. This is how we chose, because we do have this huge constraints, you know. Everywhere someone has to do something, you know. So you got to work around, you know. We work around those problems, and yeah, we did, but yeah.
So in conclusion, no pain, no gain. You have to suffer first. Okay, I'm sorry, we don't have time. Oh, sorry. Oh, one more. You're lucky. Okay, we have one more.
Hello. Basically, it's a question about dream or problem. Which one do you prefer for us to work for? Like work for dream or work based on solving problem?
Which one do you like more? It's for me, it's what do you want to do? You know, if that, everyone has a different answer to that. I wouldn't say do this or do that. It's really about what you want as a person. Do you want to, really solve this problem of, oh, sushi is at my street are so bad. So, I mean, or my dream is to make a bakery. It could be the same. Like in our case, it's it's the same. But if it's two different things, just choose which one you feel you're willing to spend more time on to, you're more passionate about, basically.
I personally think that it should go hand in hand. So it should be a dream, and it should be, what was it?
A problem.
A problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Solving the problem is your dream.
So, whoa. So it's the combination of both.
That's like the winning thing to have.
It looks, sometimes you don't see. People have passions of, I'm gonna be something really rather unrealistic. But if you see, for example, startups in India, the projects that they've involved in are genuine problems that society face every day, and they make big money out of those. Because the development hasn't reached that level of maturity in India. So it really depends. I wouldn't say one or the other. I mean, it could be both.
Yeah.
Ideally, it's both, but it really depends on case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you. So now we should proceed to question from London. Hi, London, can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, do we have questions?
Oh, wow.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
I would like to ask about your exit strategies and why.
So he would like to ask about exit strategies and why.
So I was discussing this with JC earlier.
Yeah.
Like what
We are
kind of exit strategies there are. Your company can get acquired by a bigger company. Your company could get acqui-hired. Means like they acquire the company and they hire you on board as like the managing director. Or you can IPO, an initial public offering. That's when your company grows so big and you just want to get out, so you sell your shares to public. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and yours?
So yeah, my exit strategy was to get acquired by hardware companies like Cisco, because my end goal was to create a huge network, but I could not reach even manufacturing stage. So
this is one of the things that we have conflicts. They're still ironing out. Amongst our team members.
This is what I mentioned, conflicts.
Yeah. And honestly, we're still at the early stage to be really worried about that too much. Not too much now, but still, we do have some idea. My answer would be, the exit strategy would be ideally acquire, and the best option would be acquire and hire, because this product we think can complement existing products. Google, YouTube could actually, I think, hopefully benefit from this, but that's my take on it. If you ask another person, you get a different answer because they're still ironing out the details.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, any other questions from London? Okay.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Okay, hello. I'd like to ask two of you, how long do you guys work on your products to a point that you guys finally see the result, a positive result? Thank you.
Okay. How long have you guys worked on the product until you finally see the results?
I basically hid myself from the world for 6-7 months to build my product. So I built my product, but in the end I could not manufacture it because I didn't do proper product market fit, which is to find people who actually want to buy the product for the price I was selling at. So I did not see a positive result the whole time I was working on my product.
With my case, it's, I mean, this is like a bit of my problem. There's always room for improvements. So, being sort of a little bit perfectionist, So, we think that we always consistently do better because especially in software. Software is not hardware. Once you create it, that's the end of the line. You cannot constantly improve it. But to say, like, I would say a little bit over a year, a good part of a year we spent on just thinking how to actually make this whole thing work feasibly, not just work idealistically. Yeah, so our case would be a year. Yeah.
A year.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So thank you very much. So you can see actually entrepreneurship is not something easy. It's really risky.
Nothing is.
Yeah. If you want to see the best, if you want the best results, you have to definitely work hard for it. Like maybe stay at 4 a.m. every day and do more crazy stuff. So it's not easy. And we really thank you, both Adam and Jashan, to take your time here and share your experience with us. Thank you very much.
Can I have one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
The Malaysian government is really pumping a lot of money into the entrepreneurship section. So if you're really considering building a startup back in Malaysia, approach the Ministry of Finance. They have 3 or 4 initiatives that fund these kind of things. And then there's MAGIC, there's MDAC, and there's mostly the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation.
Well, so actually there's a lot of government initiative.
Yeah, funding options.
Okay.
Also check your respective universities. Usually, most cases, every university has one. So, there's an opportunity closer to home. I mean, where you are physically.
Yeah.
So,
like UCL has a £50 million venture capital fund now as well.
Wow, thank you. You sound like ambassador of minister and ambassador of UC. Okay, thank you very much. So I think we'll end our session now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, speakers and JC. I would like to call upon Amirul Hakim, President of Harriet Ward Malaysian Society, to present a souvenir to our speakers. Thank you, speakers and JC. I would like to call upon Amirul Hakim, President of Harriet Ward Malaysian Society, to present a souvenir to our speakers.
Am I streaming or am I not streaming? Yeah, London. Okay, now. Stop, ah. Stream lagi, ya. Ready.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Edinburgh side. That was, so we just concluded our session on women in corporate and also our entrepreneurship session. So this is something that I think the UKEC is really trying to push for as well, besides just looking at our regular politics and economics topics, but also to look at these other topics that you all as youth can really get involved with. So very practical things like a startup, like what can we do, and as also to bring in question this question in mind, which is the role of women in corporates and what can the women do to advocate further and also to get the men on board, right? So I think that the sessions were a very good approach, and I hope that it has been really beneficial for your time being here this whole evening. So we are going to move on to our final session for the day, and we'll be discussing politics. So our title for this evening will be Malaysian Democracy, Where It Is Now and Where It Is Headed. So we are not really going to be discussing about like, oh, NSC bill is here, no democracy, the ballot box when disappeared, no democracy. But we actually have gotten a panel of speakers who are academics to really dissect this problem, to look at where democracy is now in Malaysia and what are we heading towards, what would a good democracy in Malaysia look like. And we have 3 panel speakers for today. First on our panel is Professor Ulong Datuk Dr. Syamsul Amri Baharudin. He is currently Director, Institute of Ethnic Studies in University Kebangsaan Malaysia and Principal Fellow in Institute of Occidental Studies, also in the UKM. A professional in social anthropology since 1991, Professor Syamsul has more than 30 years of teaching and research both in Malaysia and overseas. He is also actively publishing academic journals and sit in the editorial board for journal publishing based in Jakarta, Australia, Hong Kong, and Malaysia. Next up on our panel, we have Dr. Ho Kai Leong. He is currently Professor and Vice President of University College Selatan, Malaysia, and has held various academic positions in other universities, both in Malaysia and Singapore. Dr. Ho's research areas include China-Asian relations, Southeast Asia politics and culture, and administrative reforms in Malaysia and Singapore. And he has also published widely on these areas. And finally, on our speaker panel, we have Dr. Carlo Bonora. He's a senior teaching fellow in Southeast Asian politics at SOAS. He received his PhD from the University of Washington in political science, and his research spans the field of comparative political thought and Southeast Asian politics. Previously, Dr. Bonora was a research project officer and associate with the Comparative Political Thought project organized by the Center for Political Ideologies in the Department of Politics and International Relations at the University of Oxford. He was also appointed the Luce Assistant Professor of Muslim Societies in the Southeast Asia in the Department of Politics and International Relations at the University of Puget Sound, Jamaica. And moderating this session for the evening will be Azman Wazir, Executive in the Catalyst Office. Without further delay, let us welcome our panel speakers.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us this far. And so you've just heard the biography of these 3 very esteemed professors. And I just want to talk a bit about the topic before we jump into it. We often talk about the present, like what happened now, current events. Oh, this thing happened yesterday. Dr. Mahathir and Anwar are like best friends again. But we often get too distracted by the present that we forget about thinking to the future. And sometimes we think too much of the future that we forget that the future is very much determined by the past. And today we're trying to just bridge these 3 together. And hopefully we have these 3 professors here to help us with that. And so without further ado, I'll just start. And I'll direct these questions to specific professors, but feel free to join in anytime. So first, Dr. Ho Kai Leong. Mahathir has been criticizing Najib a lot these days, and more so recently. But how much does Najib's administration really differ from Mahathir's? Is it fundamentally different in terms of attitude or policies or structure?
Thank you. First of all, let me say I'm so glad to be here. I didn't know that the first question was directed to me, but I will start with this answer. Malaysian politics actually is extremely interesting at this moment. I landed in London yesterday, and new things are happening. We realize all of a sudden you have a group of politicians with various political positions who are used to be enemies before are now uniting against a person called Najib, right? And what does that say about, as I try to relate what is going on in Malaysia right now with the question that the organizer asked me to answer, and that is democratization of Malaysian democracy. And I was thinking, how do you relate the Citizen Declaration with the development of democracy in Malaysia? I think there's a connection. If democracy means legitimacy and accountability, the challenge by Mahathir, etc., actually says a lot about the lack of accountability and the lack of good public governance in Malaysia right now. After all, democracy is really about not just procedural building, but also about good governance, administrative responsiveness, and accountability. Now, how much does Najib's administration differs from Mahathir? I think they share many similarities. And one thing that comes immediately to mind is that when they came into office, they have slogans that appeal to the electorate. Mahathir has this Vision 2020, and by the way, 2020 is not very far away from us right now. Now is 2016, and we have 4 years to go. And are we on the way to Vision 2020? I think all of us knows in our heart where are we now. And Najib, of course, when he comes into office, have this slogan of Satu Malaysia, right? And one Malaysia, and of course now one Malaysia has turned into one MDB scandal. And here all of us are reminded, that slogans actually are used by third world politicians, by the way, right, to rule. But slogans must be backed by policies, and they must be committed by policies that should not be used to consolidate the legitimacy of corrupt politicians, you see. So here I think in terms of similarities, okay, but generally I think we can say that during Najib, of course you have these development plans, you have the continuation of patronage politics, you have the continuation of ethnic-based policies, you have this at least the appearance, all right, of bureaucratic reforms, all right. But I think something they have gotten worse, and I think here is Mahathir would agree with me that public governance in Malaysia has not been something that that we would say favorable or positive. In terms of, if you talk about, if you're interested in ranking, all right? Certainly in terms of clean government, in terms of accountability, in terms of press freedoms, etc., the protection of liberty, civil liberties, etc., Malaysia has not been doing that well during Najib's administration. So I think that would be my short answer to your complex question.
Yeah, and I think one thing we noted from that is that you said about accountability. There's just no institution, no framework. Perhaps it's work of men, not institutions. And do you?
How many minutes you have to give? I used to lecture for 2 hours. Now you give me how many minutes? 5 minutes? 10? Okay. I want to emphasize 4 points. I'm arguing that elections in Malaysia is without democracy. It was introduced in 1950, local council election by the British colonial in power. Name me one colonial power that loves democracy. Obviously, election was not for democracy. So Malaysia has inherited a tradition of election without democracy. So I feel very awkward to talk about democracy when it is not with the election. So historically. So therefore, until now, we have a bureaucracy of elections. And that's why Bersih is relevant to talk about the reform. But they're not talking about democracy. Number 2, then what do we do to have this democracy? First, you must remember everyone must be literate, can read and write. Otherwise, how do you make informed decision? How do you read all the documents? But I know I become political because of my mother and my father, not because I know about political literacy. So political literacy is a big problem in Malaysia. So a lot of people don't even know, including MPs, that there are legislators themselves. They always believe that, oh, they go and open schools, they go and give gifts to women and all. But in the end, they are legislators. So if you do a survey among the legislators in Malaysia, I can bet you only 50% would know they are legislators. Their first answer. Number 3, how do you create this political literacy climate in the country? Having good people, graduates, you know, in the 70s, 80s, now we have 91% literacy rate or 92% literacy rate. Doesn't mean we have politically literate people. Just the fact that we have a higher number of internet access, you know, in Malaysia, a lot of them are for entertainment. It's not for knowledge, you know. So in some ways, how do we drive people to become more politically conscious in the political sense that they are responsible, that they can read, and they can decide based on informed decision. So finally, from my point of view, what we are looking at in Malaysia, that's why election in Malaysia is very big in political studies. People become professors because of studying election in Malaysia, outside Malaysia. So for me, election is such an important element in Malaysia, not necessarily democratic element. And that's why we see corruption, we see all sorts of stuff, transparency issues with election. I mean, I remember when I was small, I went to a lot of this vote counting. At that time, when it became at the end of it, then suddenly the light went off. Then it came back again, and the opposition won, or the ruling party won. So it keeps changing. Yeah? So it's interesting, but now they can't do that because it's all computerized. So progressively, what we are looking is, how do we turn this fantastic election, which is like almost like feast or konduri all the time, like Bazaar Ramadan all the time when it comes, how do we turn that into a democratic institution? That is the challenge. So that's why we see all this problem that we see now is because it's never a democracy. But of course we can use the label. So we are using that label. So I can see Ho Kah Leong is correct in in the way he described the undemocratic process because there's no democracy. So it's, I don't know what it's going to be called, but definitely election without democracy. So welcome to Malaysia.
Just very quickly, so there are certain things that are taking place recently, even as recently as 24 hours ago, that are obviously very unique. They're very novel. The amount of realignment in terms of the political parties, I would argue, is novel. The way in which certainly Mahathir's, or actually, well, the way in which leadership out of UMNO is being expelled out of UMNO, that also to some degree is novel. But of course, the most unique thing is this potential realignment across ex-UMNO leadership and the opposition. So we are in a position, and of course, Bursi is totally unique to, I think, this political moment, from 2008 onwards. The power and yet complete disorganization of the opposition itself is a very interesting phenomenon. But there's a deep irony, which you don't need me to tell you about because it's absolutely clear, of Mahathir's participation in this declaration and this realignment, precisely because I think the deep similarity between Najib's government and Mahathir's governments is that there are some core, we could use the word autocratic elements that have not gone away. So certainly the reliance on party switching to bolster support within parliament or to destabilize the opposition is there. The reliance on the security apparatus is still there. Certainly you have the politicization of ethnic and religious issues. All of those things were to some degree perfected under Mahathir, and they still remain a core element under Najib as well.
So I think the question, democracy, where are we now, has been sort of answered. But you mentioned, Dr. Munir, that on sort of the rise of this political realignment. And do you think that the rise of a secondary Muslim party in Malaysia, to those who don't know, Party Amanat Negara, in Malaysia signals a major shift in the electorate demands, or do you think it's a more long-term natural evolution? And if so, which community do you think is really driving this change? Is it the urban, the rural? Is it a particular ethnic, or maybe neither? Maybe it's Malaysians?
I think there's two important points to make on this in terms of this question. The first is that we don't know, with regard to electoral demand, we don't know how the party will perform. The fact that there are now 4 parties that are speaking to some degree, you argue it's a second Islamic party, but there are 4 parties that to some degree would be fighting over the same constituency, so it's not clear exactly how it would perform. But it's important to, on the first point, it's important to remember that this is not the product of electoral demand. This is a product of elite politics and divisions within PAS, and that are elite divisions within PAS, and more importantly, pressure on PAS over the implementation of hudud punishments that are coming from UMNO. So the actual dynamics that have resulted in this new party are not necessarily from demand, organic demand in any way. The second important point to make here, though, is that for this to really be about voter demand, and for this to really be about a natural evolution in, let's say, Muslim politics, of public sphere, specifically on topics related to Islam, that would allow for people to represent different positions and for voters to actually for them to respond to those differences in a way which would be open and truly democratic. So the irony here is, again, that this the splintering of PAS is actually the product of, is potentially the product of autocratic dynamics within Malaysian politics and not democratic dynamics. So.
First, let me respond to what Professor Samsu said about democracy and elections. By the way, Professor Samsu is my senior and also my teacher at University Kebangsaan, Malaysia. I studied there in the 70s, the point I want to make is I left University Kebangsaan, but Professor Samsu has been there in that great institution ever since. He's still there. Great to have him. Let me add to what he just said about elections. I basically agree that there is election but no democracy in Malaysia. But if we go deeper into that concept of democratization and elections, I would say this. What Malaysia has since the British rule in 1957, when we got independence, what we have are procedural democracy, procedures in place. And here is where you have elections as an indication of democracy. We have also check and balances, institutions, the parliament, the legislature, and the executive that would act on, that would check and balance each other. But these are what we call procedural democracy, elements of procedural democracy. What Professor Samsu is saying is that we don't have the substantive part of democracy, and that's the values, the vision, the commitment of protecting human rights, civil liberties, and the rights of the minorities. Okay, so what we and here is where our education fails all of us, because in our education system, the values of democracy, the values that we must respect each other, of accommodation, are not there, or at least are not emphasized too much. And given the examples of leadership at this point, I think we know what direction we are going. Okay. Now, as regard to the question that you just raised about the alternative to ethnic-based politics, I think that is, to me, there are many positive developments in the last few decades as far as democratization in Malaysia is concerned. First of all, I think you do have the emergence of the NGOs. You know, when I was a young man, there were very few NGOs, or at least NGOs that are extremely active in the political arena. Now you have per se, I don't know, now it's per se 4, per se 5 is coming. All these are important for young people in the socialization process about democracy in Malaysia. Already, I mean, of course, if you are the Barisan National supporter, you would think that these are just troublemakers. But if you look at it from the democratic theory or from political science perspective, you realize that these are a very important part of socialization. The emergence, beside the NGOs, the emergence of middle class. Again, in democratic theory, the middle class is supposed to be an agent of democratization. Now, I'm not sure in Malaysia the middle class is doing that, but we do see a group of middle class cutting across race. You have the Chinese middle class, Indian middle class, and Malay middle class that are quite provocative, all right, in their demand for various issues, including women's rights, including cultural and civil liberties, etc., etc. All right, and I think, of course, the most important emergence or the factor that give me some sign of hope about democratization in Malaysia is that you do have an alternative to Barisan Nasional, right? And which you just alluded to, and that I think is an important point for us to consider. I always believe that although ethnic politics is so entrenched in Malaysia, But there is also a huge market, a huge base of support for multiculturalism, for non-ethnic based politics. You know, here you see the emergence of Pakatan Keadilan or Pakatan Harapan or whatever we call it. All right, but certainly this is a alternative which is more open, more accommodative, and more pluralistic in terms of representation. Okay, so given that three factors, I would see hope, positive indications that substantive democracy is taking roots, although very, very slowly. Thank you.
I would like to put a different spin to what you have said, and to what you have said. I believe in Malaysia there is no opposition party. What we have is oppositionism. What do I mean by oppositionism? Every one of them once belonged to Alliance or Barisan. So they go to only one political school in Malaysia, Barisan Political School. Anwar is a graduate from Barisan Political School. So are the past candidates in the Barisan National. So was members of the AP who were MCA before. So is PPP, was it PPP in Ipoh, also from Barisan National. I don't see any of them actually original. So what we are looking is, that is the opposition, this is the Barisan. They are looking at a mirror. And they also corrupt in the same way. The way in Perak, PKR, they have a template of how to be corrupt. Something like that. So, I'm not too excited about this opposition party. I'm excited oppositionism because everyone is changing. Tengku Razali out. Semangat 46, hilang semangat, came back. Rais Yatim went out, came back, become a minister. You are rewarded. You kill people in political party. Have you heard anyone murdering? Minister murder a speaker in Malaysia. So we forgot all this. It's more than the excitement of you ever imagined compared to politics in India or Jakarta or somewhere else. But we don't say them. But I always know and remember the Malaysian politics is full of this oppositionism which led to even the murder case of Taha Talib and Mautashi and a few more. So I think while it is interesting to develop a political science analysis of this based on opposition versus established or government, but I think you have to see the Malaysian context because there are 4 or 5 factors how Malaysian politics work. Number 1, personalities. Number 2, inter-ethnic issues. Number 3, intra. Number 4, federal-state relation. We never discussed this. Federalism is Malaysia. Malaysia DNA is federalism. And yet, only 4 books so far, or 5, has been produced on federalism. And yet, I have 13, 14, 15 books on election. So, I can see people are just focusing on a different thing on the stage. So you are not focusing on the main character, you are focusing on some little gestures on the side. So this is how we analyze Malaysian politics. So my issue with Malaysian politics is 2. Number 1, the analysis. Number 2, the analytical tool. Because you use different analytical tool, you produce a different analysis. So this is what I'm trying to say. So we can have all these issues being discussed. So I'm just trying to say that if we flip the story around, we find they're all, Mahathir is now shaking hands with Lim Kay Siong. Hello, my friend. But in Parliament, they're rubbishing each other. So, and Lim Kay Siong has been holding this book called Time Bomb. I don't know when it's going to Meletup. So, it's interesting for me that when I saw the picture yesterday, then I said, my theory about oppositionism in Malaysia is alive.
I think these comments are very important because what we have to realize, and perhaps this is directly related to the where are we headed, is that autocratic politics produces autocratic outcomes. And what that means is that One other thing that you didn't mention, which I think is a hallmark of the opposition, is that this is not an ideological opposition. You know, these are groups which are just as, in some cases, and in particularly in Anwar's case, just as developmentalist as the government itself. And so, but I think that we shouldn't expect anything more from institutional politics in Malaysia, and that's the reason why groups like Bersih play such an important role. And we might add that the timing of Bersih's last rally is very important after the collapse of Pakatan Rakyat. You know, not demonstrating that this type of movement does not necessarily need an institutionalized coalition to actually provide it with life. So.
Thank you, all professors. You mentioned, you mentioned political analysis and analytical tools. And in a big sense is why we're all here today. We're trying to develop our political savviness, if I may call it that. And so, what do you think the Malaysian rhetoric? We heard that the government and opposition may be the same, that they're the same autocratic mold, perhaps. What do you think is the Malaysian political rhetoric today? How developed do you think it is? Do you think we're getting on the way there? Do you think we still have a lot way to go? And if so, how?
We are going nowhere. But we enjoy. We enjoy the ride, nevertheless. Why can't we? A free ride on taxi around London, why not? And that's a bit like what we are experiencing in Malaysia. There's enjoyment in election. I told you. People look forward for election. There's a time of celebration, kenduri. And I think the symbols and the rhetoric that come with it is very natural. And I would see spending time in Sabah and Sarawak during election time is interesting. They are not interested in all this ideological stuff. They are more interested, what can I get out of this business? So election is a business. So part of the promotion in any political party is to come up with their own slogan. I don't know whether they are serious or not about this. Because when we talk about government in Malaysia, there are two types of government, state and federal government. And they may not be the same. So you find the rhetoric of the state government of Penang and Selangor and Kelantan could be totally different between themselves. And the federal government, of course. And then the Sarawak BN government has something else to say. And the Sabah one is pretty busy, want to go somewhere. I don't know where they're going. So it is interesting how we see these simultaneous voices being expressed by a seemingly united or collected group of people. So I think to look for that united or unified rhetoric is impossible in Malaysia. Because as you mentioned just now about religion, we haven't mentioned how each state actually have a different fatwa about wearing tudung. See, so there's a lot more second, third layer complication that we have to address. That necessitate us to have a little closer look at the way our federalism is organized. Because our country is a bit like a Rubik's Cube. You pull this way, you pull that way, you cannot get the color right all the time. I mean, I'm from Semenanjung. I have to carry my passport before when I go to Sarawak and Sabah. Now I carry my IC. I cannot have a work permit there. I cannot work there unless I have a work permit. If I'm a medical doctor, I have to get a special permission to practice. Can you imagine another country like Malaysia? Blessed with this limitation, but still surviving. How do you explain that?
As if you want to explain that.
I can't explain it, but I just want to come back to something you mentioned about One Malaysia. What is really interesting to me is how political rhetoric on the ground, particularly during elections, or during parliamentary sessions, is fairly contentious. You know, it's very caustic. There's a lot of communalism in it, and yet at the state level, governments, whether depending on who's the prime minister, but governments seem to continually put faith in these broad, fairly generic state ideologies. And this extends to the question of Islam as well, this notion of moderation. So I think at a very basic level, at the level of the populace, these state ideologies are not getting us anywhere. However, the one place where they do get Malaysia is at the international level. These are exactly the types of discourses that governments in the North Atlantic want to hear. And that's a very interesting disconnect, that there are dynamics related to religious politics or to communal politics that are very caustic, and yet at the international level, Malaysia's image as a moderate Muslim nation is very durable. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the lack of sophistication on the part of Western governments, but also there are demands that Western governments are under to find these countries, to support Muslim majority states within Southeast Asia, so basically Indonesia and Malaysia, precisely because of the geopolitical pressures. And so that's a very interesting disconnect. On the ground, they seem to have no traction whatsoever. Moderation, this Wasatiyah, has no traction whatsoever on the ground in Malaysia, and yet internationally, I wouldn't be surprised if you took ambassadors who know very little about Malaysia, but who are assigned to the region, right? They should know much more. And I'm sure that the few things that they could tell you about these countries come directly from these state ideologies. So it's very interesting. At the international level, it's getting these ideologies, this rhetoric is moving, but at the domestic level, there's no traction.
Thank you. That's very interesting.
Let me go back to that issue of whether you're enjoying the ride of Malaysian politics or not. We're going nowhere, yes, I agree. Now, election as a festival, something that we all enjoy, I think true. But something else that we enjoy much more right now is, to me, it's not elections, but rallies. Per se, for example, all those protests, rallies that have been organized by the Anwar session and also by the NGOs have attracted tremendous numbers of people. Now, I gather that these rallies did not only happen in Kuala Lumpur, but also in different cities of the world. I'm not sure. I read from the Facebook that per se supporters in London, and I'm sure, I don't know how many of you actually, maybe you don't want to show your hands, that you are per se supporters. But I did join the per se rallies in Kuala Lumpur as a political observer. I want to see how things happen on the ground. And I find that, as Professor Samsu described, a very festive mood. People are not there to just shout slogans. People are there enjoying the companionship, knowing that there is something to protest about. Now I think something has changed in the last 20 years or so. Since I was a young man, I guess, there's this protests actually are legitimate. They are seen favorable. They are seen to be acceptable. Now, again, it reflects the rise of political consciousness among our younger generations. We talk about participation in a democracy. And here is where participative politics is happening in Malaysia. Now, whether we are enjoying this spectacle of corrupt politicians or scandals or murders, etc., etc., I'm not very sure. We are enjoying it, but certainly I think it has made many of us very cynical about the political process in Malaysia. Now, this is sad, because I always think that public service, politics can do good, and public service is always a noble thing to do. that we all, young men, talented young men and women, should be attracted to public service. Now, if the political process right now, if politics right now make us cynical, then I think many of us will not join the public service. And actually, we are seeing that right now. The quality of politicians in Malaysia actually make us feel very, very ashamed. I mean, the way they respond to certain issues, they're not talking common sense. They're just making fool of themselves, to me, at least.
Many of them are UK graduates.
Many of them UK. Well,
I'm not going to let the moderator speak. There are 2 points I want to raise. 1998 is the turning point in the way Malaysians look at themselves. Anwar Ibrahim, after being sacked, went through the whole country, leading demonstration after demonstration about his fate. I call it the black eye reformasi, because that black eye is a symbol, and that's what people see around the world, in New York, everywhere. They don't care about reformasi, they only know the black eye. I remember everyone wearing t-shirt in Melbourne with the black eye. Now, what Musa Hitam commented, that is the more important part at that time, was he said, I have been a minister of internal affairs, I've been a deputy president of UMNO. Any rallies or demonstration is always ethnic in nature. Only Anwar Ibrahim managed to do something that nobody else ever done, which is having rallies which is non-ethnic in nature. And I think that's the awakening period or the era that we must recognize in Malaysian politics. And henceforth, we can see all this movement, Bersih, the spin-off from it, as if some unleashing a new feeling of freedom in whatever limited sense they could experience. And I think this is what we are seeing until today. They made because this also relates to the way we got independent in 1957. During the independence, we had curfew. You go in at 6 p.m., you come out at 6 a.m. in the morning. You walk around at night, you get shot. On 31st of December, coming out from curfew, they went to say Merdeka, Merdeka, and go back into curfew. What does it mean? We had independence, but we never had freedom. That's what the DNA of Malaysia is all about. And that's why the struggle in Malaysia is always to try and achieve this freedom. Because we never did. Now I say we're still there, emergency ordinance was still there for a long, long time. So I think in many ways what we are looking at when we say about this movement that we appreciate, because the number of NGOs, CBOs, and all sorts of O's has come now. Okay? And I think this is a very healthy development because people are talking. This is where I compare with Sri Lanka. We talk conflict, but we walk cohesion. We don't like, we say. But after that, let's go to Mama's shop, have some roti. Okay, see, this is, we found a solution. The Mamakization of Malaysian politics is very important because they lead us to somewhere very neutral and fulfilling. Don't look at me, I said fulfilling. Now, there is also the second point. The second point I want to make. Sorry, you have to stop me. The second point is about thinking outside the box. Oh, you have 10 more minutes for me? Okay. Not for me, it's for all of us. Okay. I don't read signal very well. You see, I used to attend all these classes and also courses. When you come up to certain level university, you're sent somewhere to learn how to think outside the box. So in one of the arguments I had with the lecturer, an American guy, paid by I don't know who, to come, must be thousands of dollars, to teach us how to think outside the box. So I told him, how well do you know Malaysia? He said, oh no, this is my first trip to Malaysia. And how come you're teaching us to think outside the box? Do you know there's a proverb in Malay, it says, katak di bawah tempurung. A frog under the shell. In Malaysia, even we think outside the box, we are still in the shell. And there are small shell, big shell, fat shell. So how do we get out of this shell? I said, is that true? I said, so the lecturer turns around, I became the lecturer. So the Malaysian partners, about 10 of them, were very happy. I said, I'm not happy because I'm not paid. He's paid. I said, what do I mean by, I said, the big shell? There is an element that we don't talk about in Malaysia, which is the royal family and the royal values that permeates in the whole society, not only among the Malays, among the non-Malays too. Everyone wants a datuk. If they don't get their datuk, even how many billions they have to sit in that corner, in that table during dinner. Once you have that datuk, you may move 2 tables ahead. The other one country, and finally tone. So I said, this is an element which is a value very important for Malaysians, but they don't speak about it. This is the beauty of Malaysia. Contradiction, not speaking, subterranean philosophy, and there we are, giving our opinion. And I think, but nobody dares to talk about royal family, but the royal family can talk about anything in the country through his football, what do you call it, blog. That's all he can do, because the ball is around us.
Thank you, Dr. Shamsul. I'm just gonna cut this, 5 minutes for the 3 of us. Cut this short by just asking for some, just a bit. I didn't want to join per se for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons I didn't want to join per se was because I didn't believe in how it was personalized. But maybe I should have. Do you know the answer to that? So I just wanted to ask, and Dr. Ho Kai Leong mentioned the middle class, and you said that middle class is the driver of politics, of the democracy, perhaps, and you said that maybe that's not the case in Malaysia. So since most of us are from the middle class in this room, I'd like to ask all 3 professors to give some advice to us, middle class advice.
Are you middle class?
I would think so.
How do you know you are?
I have no idea.
I think middle class is partly reality, partly perception. Okay? There are many beautiful women in Malaysia who got duped by middle class looking men. I'm sorry I didn't answer to Sharifah. If I tell Sharifah, she'll cringe, you know. So for me, middle class in Malaysia is still a concept in many people's head. We can't identify it because of ethnic differences. We can't identify our middle classness except through consumption. Through what we buy, through what we wear, which supermarket we go, which mall we go for exercise. Nowadays, there's a group of people doing exercise in the mall, which is good because they're both exercise and pocket and money and body. Yeah. So I think this is the issue, because that's why the Arab Spring that we expect to happen in Malaysia doesn't happen, because our middle class are more interested in social mobility, making sure their children gets better education than they do. So why do they want to care about politics? Why do they want to care and worry about what happens to the country in the future? My children must get scholarship. Now SPM just come out last week. My house is full of people from my kampung asking, where can they go? I said, well, nowadays no scholarship. I said, you know. So election is still far away. I said. So I mean, this is the real important aspect of our life in Malaysia. Middle class, yes, but who are these middle class? So like, for example, in PAS, the middle class PAS has now become Amanat. Has left. The turban PAS remain there, supported by middle class UMNO in Kelantan. So which middle class we are talking about? So you may have something to say.
No, that's. I think it's a wonderful. The last point's a wonderful point to make. Which middle class? I don't know what advice I could give. The theory related to the relationship between democratization and the middle class, which has been, which is, there's been 30 years of political science and economics devoted to this theory, effectively argues that middle classes, once they realize that their interests are no longer being represented by the state, they put pressure on the state responds by opening up means to kind of devolve political authority to members of the middle class who become politicians and represent class interests. There's a lot of debate within political science as to whether or not this actually takes place. And of course, there's a larger discussion of what's going on in East Asia, in which you have middle classes, particularly in China, which are thoroughly beholden to the state and are actually potentially an obstacle for political democratization. I think that the two things to keep in mind here are, one, that this is as we've all talked about, this is a period in Malaysian politics in which there are all types of realignments taking place. Those may not result in any type of reform whatsoever, but there may be elements that may remain when this period is over that do lead to broader reform. The big problem with the Citizens' Declaration is, what next? You cannot have this variety of politicians on a single stage and presume that there is any outcome that any single outcome we can predict from this. And unfortunately for those politicians, the big outcome that they're all hoping for is something we can't predict either.
Advice for middle class students. You know, in Singapore, in Malaysia, students come to me for advice. Okay, what should I do, sir? Continue my studies, look for a job. My advice to these middle class students are that you should go out of Malaysia, take a look at the world. There are a lot of things happening. The world is an oyster. You know, go to do a postgraduate studies, go to travel, etc., etc. That's my advice to my local students. Now, to the middle class UK students, my advice is, after you have looked at the world, after you have gotten your education, come back to Malaysia. Come back to do your contribution. Not just the private sectors, but also look at the public service. To me, public service has always been a noble profession. That is a place where your energies, right, will be appreciated. And I think you should really take a look at these arenas where you can actually contribute to nation building. Malaysia actually have lost a lot of talents to not just to UK or Australia, but they're also losing a lot of talents, especially the Chinese, going to Taiwan, going to China, going to Singapore. You know, 40% of the new citizens in Singapore actually are from Malaysia. So, of course, you can make your own choice. This is something that, you know, that nobody can control you. But my advice to all the UK students, you have looked around the world, you have got enough of UK, especially the winters, come back to Malaysia. The weather is much better. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all three speakers. So that's the end of that's the end of talking from me. And now we'll take questions from the audience in London, and I'll take three at a time, and then we'll pass on to the speakers. So.
Hi. Do you think it would be better, or is it even possible for Malaysia to have a totally new political party?
Hi, thanks for the really refreshing discussion actually. I have a question. So your view on the political landscape in Malaysia, it is true, but do you think we are capable of changing the whole political model? For example, in Brazil, they're actually having this app where the citizens themselves can actually vote for the government and change policies. Do we think we are capable to go that way, or would it be good as well for the country as a whole?
My question is directed to Encik Samsul. Being born and raised in a multicultural, a country with many different races, I have actually more friends of different races than my own. So to me, how I interpret Malaysia is that we all recognize each other as equals. We are all Malaysians in general. But recent events that happened, for example, the incident that happened at Lawyat, which involves conflict between two races, has actually scared me a little, in the sense it's surprising and it's shocking and it's scary to know that there is racial tension still going on, and it feels like people are just waiting for a reason to fight. And in that case, both the Chinese and the Malays are just waiting for a reason to raise their fists at each other, which is really scary, because I go to Mamak with my Malay friends, Indian friends, any friends, Malaysians, and I would like to know if the racial tension is caused by the politics, or has it always been there and is gradually decreasing but still existent? Thank you.
I think about ethnic tension in Malaysia, this is how I would like to see and try to tell myself, not to tell you, but to tell myself. And when I do that, I always remember Sri Lanka. Because you have to make example that is convincing and also comparative. Because you can look inward and you do the navel gazing and you will worry yourself to death. But I think in some ways, what we are looking at in Malaysia is there is always this group from Mali days until now. Before we even know Osama bin Laden, we already have our own version. So there are groups of people who are just simply crazy, who thinks this is the way, this is the right way, this is, and this is what you have to look for. You have to observe. And that's why I think Malaysians are very good and mature in a way, not to support any of this. There are a few people who try to provoke this. I know. It can happen every day. But the question is, so far, since 1969, it hasn't gone anywhere. So a lot of people are waiting. I don't know what they are waiting. Because I think it's not going to happen that easily anymore. Because everyone in the country is thinking of how could I make sure my children is better than I am. So you have to be aware that these things will happen again. I wouldn't say it will not happen, but I would say it will happen again. There are some crazy guys there, Martin Yu or Tando or whatever his name is, encouraging people to do all the silly things. And I think this is not good. So that's number one. We have to observe that carefully. But whether we can change, this is the question you both raised, whether we can change the system. You see, we had an opportunity in 1946, Malayan Union, which is a unitary state. And then in 1948, it became a federal state. And then 1963, it became expanded federal state with complete complication. Like I said, I have to take my passport and everything else. We are actually differentiated in Malaysia, even though we are the same. So we sing the same Negaraku, but the imagination about the Negara is not the same. So there is always a competing notion of nation in Malaysia. I believe in wawasan, the guy believe in something else, so we may be at the front, we sing, we celebrate Malaysia, but at the same time, we feel that we are quite different. Now, this difference haven't been studied. Now, this is where I'm blaming the political science again. Because they're so busy studying election. They haven't studied this. They haven't looked at it. Why do people feel they are second-class citizens? You have to explain that. I have an explanation. Next year I come.
I think these are great questions, but I'm really interested in your focus on political parties, and this is something that exactly what you just talked about, because it makes sense. It's reasonable, and I would argue that this is exactly what's happening in other democracies around the world, right? In the U.S., there's a kind of striving for some type of alternative political party. It happens every so often. In the U.K., there's we had the Lib Dems for a while. There is like all of these. There's I think a very basic impulse within modern institutionalized democracies to turn toward political parties for the answers. But there are two things I want to point out. The first is that I think Bursi, and it's not just Bursi, but it's on the other political side of the political spectrum, the red shirts protest, the fact that people are in the streets indicates that people are looking for alternative sources of political power that are not party-based. So that might be one thing to think about, is that it's not always putting our faith in political parties. But the second point to mention is the point that you just made, which is a very important one in terms of, I'm just going to focus on religion here because this is what I studied. But with regard to the growth of the power of the Islamic bureaucracy in Malaysia, this ensures that people, whether you are Muslim or non-Muslim, are going to have a different relationship to public religion or to piety, the public practice of your religion, the way in which you speak freely, or what you purchase in stores, that are completely differentiated across the country. And that is something which cannot lead to some broader sense of cohesion. So I guess the point here is that we shouldn't necessarily put all of our faith in political parties, and then there are other things out there beyond the politics at party levels which are getting in the way of democratization. Some of that has to do with the differences across different bureaucracies because of federalism. It's a more complicated point, but I think it's an important one.
I'll respond to the questions on political parties and whether there is an alternative system for Malaysia. I think these two questions reflect the idealism that young people like all of you have. We are idealistic for some reasons or another. But these two questions are refreshing because many of us conservatives might not have thought about that. But the reason why we haven't thought about these questions is that there seems to be a limit to what we can do about new political parties or new political system. Now, first about political parties. If you want to have a new political party, it must be new, right? Now, what we have in Malaysia about political parties is that I think we do have a representation of different characteristics, different base. Right now we know that it's ethnic base, right? You have the Chinese, the Malays and the Indians and so on. And of course you have the religious base parties. What we don't have at this point, which we used to have, is an ideological based political parties, like Communist Party of Malaya. Okay. Now we have gotten rid of that, and I don't think we accept communism anymore. Or even though the PRC Chinese probably would think that theirs is the greatest system of all, but in Southeast Asia, at least the way I see it, there is not very much support for an ideological base or a communist based political party. So to have a new political party in Malaysia, it must be new. And I don't see any acceptable base which a new political party can rely on to gain legitimacy and support. Now, per se may very well be an alternative to what political parties, the limits of political parties as representatives of the people's voices. But unless they organize themselves as organizations and the ultimate power is to take over the government, then it will not be an alternative as a political party. Now, whether there is an alternative for a political system, again, the answer is the same. Here, you are talking about a totally new constitution that becomes the base of Malaysian democracy. It's the constitutional monarchy. Okay, is there alternative to that? To have an alternative, you need a revolution. You need idealists who are willing to die for that political cause. And I don't see there's any support for such a political objective. What you can do actually is not an alternative to Malaysian democracy, but you should think along the line of how to make sure that Malaysian democracy is on the right path. You have a lot of feudal elements in the Malaysian politics, as Professor Samsul has enlightened us to. There is a lot of autocratic elements in Malaysia. There are a lot of authoritarian elements in Malaysia. But that does not mean that we will replace these elements with something other than democracy. We have a heritage, whether you like it or not. All right, I would call it procedural democracy imposed by the British administration, but nevertheless something in place, functional, something functional. All right, I think the Malaysian Parliament has been in place with the exception of 1969 when there was emergency with the suspension of Parliament. But all along, at least you have legislators in Parliament, all right, making their rounds of debates, scolding each other, no doubt, but certainly something that we see as something functional. Malaysian democracy, some political scientists, although some may blame the political scientists for doing all the talking but no actions, but consociational democracy is a good description of the Malaysian politics. You may call it semi-democracy, pseudo-democracy, etc. But certainly a system that has been functional for so long. Right? Elections have not been postponed at all. It has been going on. I mean, but there are elements of cheating, elements of corruption. But that should not make us feel that this is a system that should be replaced by more authoritarianism, by more autocracy. I think that would be my answer to that two questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have 4 minutes left, so are there any more questions for London? All right, I'll take.
So I'd just like to ask, since my colleague over here brought up the topic of race and ethnicity. So do you think, especially considering elsewhere in the world where ethnic politics, like the ethnic dynamics, like oppression of certain races and stuff like that, given that such dynamics exist in other places of the world, what place do you think they have in the politics of Malaysia today? Do you think an radical ethnic politics is relevant? Okay, I'll just clarify it a little bit. Like, do you think that a politics based on ethnic justice rather than like simple communalism would be relevant today, as in rather than a single colorblind policy?
Hi, seeing how that we're all aware that in Malaysia there's some like overlapping parts between the three organs of government, and seeing how Malaysia follows the liberal sense, this means that there will be overlaps in function, membership between legislation, the executive and the judiciary. So it is clearly, although that there must be check and balance, but we all know that they has failed miserably. So what do you think that we should do? Like, are we capable of changing it and implementing it nowadays? Like, you know.
Okay, I know I said 2 questions, but I have 3 questions, but I lied. So there's a book published in 2002 by Amy Chua, who also wrote about how clever mothers are. She said, the title of the book is World on Fire. How free market democracy destroy and bring about ethnic hatred in multi-ethnic society. The basic argument is on page 3. It says that when you have economic, or when you have dominant economic minority, you bring democracy to the country, you are giving the indigenous power to challenge the economic power of the minority, and that becomes a problem. So don't forget economic factors. I'm not a Marxist, but don't forget. Always remember the economics behind all these beautiful politics that we have, including transforming it. How do we transform Malaysian politics from the economic point of view first? Is it possible? So we want to change the political system, but still within the capitalist system. Capitalist system is an immoral system. So when someone asked this morning whether the NAP, the distribution is not fair to the, is not given to the poor, only the elite, that's what capitalism is. You can't ask capitalism to be fair. And what we see in Malaysia is the product of capitalism. The question is, who controls? I think that is where we have to be very fair to ourselves.
One of the first things I looked at when I began studying Malaysian politics, and actually this was, I gave the paper at the when we first met a long time ago, was these development plans, these NEP documents. Because it's very clear in the NEP, I mean the data is there that across all 3 major races, that there are impoverished sectors that have the exact same socioeconomic needs, right? It's very, very clear in the documents. And yet the document itself, the overarching narrative of the document, is designed to challenge economic power of one group and to promote the privileges of another group. Having said that, I think I think thinking about justice in terms of this notion of ethnic justice would be very interesting, right? And obviously what you're suggesting is that there should be some type of new discourse with regard to interrelations among groups that tries to challenge what the kind of politics that exist in Malaysia right now. What I would push back a little bit on is this notion that now there's a colorblind understanding of race that is colorblind, or kind of a position in which we're not talking about justice, and yet everything is just as it is. Because the NEP documents demonstrate that, in fact, one of the reasons why there are these tensions is precisely because race and now religion, but at that time race, has clearly entered into the political realm. Now, but just going back to your point from before, Paul Gilroy has written a number of very interesting books on multiculturalism in urban areas, and he has this concept of conviviality, people living together, the experience you described, which could also be the basis for some type of rethinking what the context of political context of multiculturalism is. However, it's always within these broader contexts of political economy that in which there were competing demands and competing interests, and that's part of the problem of getting beyond an impasse.
I have nothing much to add except to elaborate the further of this colorblind policy. 30 years ago, I wrote my PhD dissertation on the new economic policy. As you all know, this is an ethnic-based policy, affirmative action policy in Malaysia. And at that time, 30 years ago, I was thinking maybe, 30 years from now, Malaysia would be colorblind, ethnic blind. Now, a lot of things had happened, except these ethnic-based policies in Malaysia. In the world, in terms of politics, the hegemonic political party system in Taiwan, in Japan, in elsewhere have fallen. The Berlin Wall has fallen. USSR has once become FFR, Union of the Fewer and Fewer Republics, and finally dissolved. And now America has a black president. Apartheid system in South Africa has also fallen. Now, these ethnic-based policies in Malaysia somehow survive all these dramatic changes that we see in international relations. Why is that the case? Is that something that Malaysians would like to see? I mean, that I'm trying to answer the question that this gentleman asked. Again, it has to do with politics and politicians who try to legitimize their position, their power, by playing up these primordial feelings that every ethnic group has. And every ethnic group would have that instinctive reaction of protecting their culture, their religion, their language, their rights. All right? And that certainly, with enough power in their hand, they can make other groups second-class citizens, as Professor Samso has said. And that's what we are seeing right now. But at the same time, there are also other forces in place that say, no, this is no good. This is no good. I mean, I see hopes here in this hall. Here, you do see a multicultural, a multi-ethnic Malaysia. We're not seeing a very monolithic group in this particular hall here. So I think, as I say in the previous commentaries that I've just made, there's a huge support and a huge support and a huge market for multiculturalism and multi-ethnicity, colorblind policies. And I think that speaks very well for the younger generation. I think we should not feel too hopeless. Questions like whether we should have a new political party, whether we have an alternative system of governance, I think we should ask those questions, but at the same time, I think there are limits to those questions. What we hope is an improvement of public governance in Malaysia. I mean, something that we never discuss in political science in general is the quality of the bureaucracy. You see, in Malaysia, the problem is not just with politics, but with the delivery of public service. I mean, those of you who live in Kuala Lumpur or elsewhere in cities like Ipoh or Johor Bahru would know about the sad state of public transportation, right? And that is the most important part of public service which government should provide. Now, bureaucratic reform in Malaysia has been going on for some time. I mean, there are a lot of successes in financial reforms, in making sure that the public servants are responsive. But in terms of provision of public goods, I think it's a dismay. Something that we have to look into very, very seriously. And overall, I call it governance, public governance. And here, I think if we would want that to improve in the future.
All right, and that's it for the London question. Sorry, Edinburgh, for cutting into your time. We'll take a question from Edinburgh now. Yep, Edinburgh, do you have any questions for us?
So if you would just raise up your hands if you have any questions, and Michael will give it to you.
Yep, we can hear you. Sorry.
You mentioned earlier about how Malaysia is active. So I just want to get your thoughts on key events that have to occur before we can start moving forward.
We didn't catch that, sorry. Key events that we have to occur before.
To simplify, I just want to know your opinions on key events that have to occur for Malaysian politics to start moving forward, instead of being in the current standstill.
So that's key events that have to occur in Malaysian politics before we can go forward.
I don't imagine any key events. It sounds like asking for keywords to answer this question. Eh? For me, what is important is not so much the key events, because key events suggest something explosive, something immediate, something suddenly. I think it has to be, as Professor Ho said, we have to watch the slow movement of post-1998. I think that is the one that we have to watch carefully. And it's not going to be events, but a series of little events, sometimes not noticeable. Like Adnan in Sarawak saying, I do what I want to do. See, that changes a lot of things and perspective. An election is coming, so he has to do that. Will he change again after election? Will we? We don't know.
I know, exactly.
Thank you. Is there any other questions from Edinburgh? Oh, so any question from Edinburgh? Is it? Yeah, you can go on with the questions. Sorry if I'm not loud enough.
Any other questions from Edinburgh? No question, Edinburgh.
Alright, move on to Twitter then. Okay. Sorry. So the question is, and this quite relates to your point, Adnan Sati. Do you think Sabah and Sarawak should be given more autonomy or assimilated further for greater national unity? Yes, so autonomy or assimilation for Sarawak and Sabah.
The Constitution has already provided that autonomy. We just don't call that autonomous region of Malaysia, like the way autonomous Mongolia. You see? But it is autonomous in many ways. I mean, they virtually run, except for oil income, you know. But the rest, the police, the army, the immigration, education, they don't even have to teach in Bahasa Malaysia if they don't have enough teachers. So, Sarawak and Sabah, they do enjoy a lot of what I feel many federated states in other federations in the world don't have. So, to what extent this can continue? You see, you have to go back to the simple formula. We talk about multiculturalism, we talk about unity in diversity. How do you manage diversity? How do you take care of diversity? Historically, you have to make this comparison between Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, all these ASEAN countries. Most of ASEAN countries, especially Indonesia, to solve their problem of diversity, they introduce assimilation. Everyone in Indonesia must have Indonesian name. Everyone in Thailand must have Thai name, whether it's south or the north, west, or wherever they are. But Malaysia, because of demographic factor, 50-50, Malaya at that time, they cannot practice assimilation. And that's what we have. We have integration. And it is not an easy fit in this integration. This uneasy fit is what we see in terms of negative reaction, unhappiness. So, and then you add some more by having Sabah and Sarawak. So you just add on all those difficulties. But again, we are here and we're surviving.
Yeah, just a very quick point. I think what we've seen over the last 2 years in terms of this increased call for autonomy has occurred at the same time as we've seen how politics related to race and ethnicity on the peninsula has actually boiled over into this tension between East and West Malaysia. Because if you think about the dynamics of the Malay language Bibles that were seized in Selangor, this was really about peninsular politics, communalist peninsular politics, affecting Sabah and Sarawak in ways that I don't think anybody maybe ever expected. And so this is something I don't have an answer. I mean, it's not really my position to call for more autonomy in Sabah and Sarawak, but certainly we can see how these increased calls are actually a product of a politics which has very little to do with East Malaysia.
Two quick points. One, Sabah, Sarawak, some are not just talking about autonomy, they're talking about separation. That was because I think many people in Sabah and Sarawak thought that they did not get a good deal in the Federation of Malaysia arrangement. So this secession thing actually is very bad. And of course, as Professor Samsul said, it's not a very easy fit into the Federation because of its size, because of its history, resources, etc., etc. Now, this separation thing actually has an effect on Peninsular Malaysia. That's point number two, and that is, it has an effect on Johor. Now, Johor is talking about Bangsa Johor, and the Sultan is very political in the sense that he's the most vocal of all the sultans in voicing out his opinions on Malaysian politics. Johorians are beginning to think that they are a separate bangsa from the rest of Malaysia. Now, is that a good thing for a Malaysian identity, for building a bangsa Malaysia? Johorians certainly are very proud, but I think on the whole, if you're talking about constitution, a federation of Malaysia, federal state relations, etc., etc., this may not be very good news. Okay. Finally, I think the third point I want to make is that Peninsular Malaysia actually needs a lot of support from Sabah and Sarawak in terms of, I'm talking about Barisan Nasional, in terms of the kind of political support for them to form the government. All right. If UMNO, Barisan Nasional, would not have enough seats for them to form the government if they just rely on the seats in Peninsular Malaysia. All right. So here you have constitution, what we call electoral boundaries issues, reforming the electoral process so that the number of electorates will reflect, the area, etc., etc. Here, Sabah and Sarawak seems to be a safe haven for the Barisan Nasional to retain its power. And per se actually is making the claim, that unless you reform the electoral process, then it will not be able to bring down the Barisan Nasional government, given the support from Sabah and Sarawak. Okay, so that's the question of autonomy and society.
Thank you, and thank you, and that marks the end of the available time we have, I'm afraid. Thank you to all three of our speakers. I'd just like to give a final message if I can, and I will. But I think what we've discussed so far is that maybe the democracy we thought we had is not what we think it is. Maybe we don't have freedom. Maybe we have elections, but not democracy. But as Professor Shamsul has reiterated, we are still surviving. And that, I don't think is politics. I think that's Malaysian. So take that with what you will. Thank you.
We would like to thank our panel speakers, and as a token of our appreciation, can we invite Joshua Tan, the president of LSE Malaysian Society, to give a token of appreciation. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the conclusion of Projek Amanat Negara. And before we end the day, we would like to extend our gratitude to everyone here, and also everyone in the UKEC for their dedication and hard work in making this happen. Our heartfelt gratitude also goes out to LSE Malaysian Society, University of Edinburgh Malaysian Society, Harriet Ward Malaysian Society, and Imperial College Malaysian Society for collaborating with us in this event, without which we could not have this venue and carry out this event. So most of all, we would like to thank our guest speakers for making a long trip, some of them, to come all the way here and to spend their Saturday evening with us and to enlighten us on the different topics that we have heard about today. And finally, thank you for making Projek Amanat Negara successful, and we look forward to seeing you in our future UKEC events. Till then, selamat sejahtera. Bye.
I'm so solid with the number of your pictures in my phone. What are you talking about?